everybody. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. It's hustle and bustle like a club. And welcome. Can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. Welcome, everybody, to the club. Thank you so much for being here today to brave the cold weather. Generally, it's such a shock. I live in Singapore, and coming here for the week, it's absolutely Arctic weather, which, being British, I should be used to. But everyone looks absolutely fantastic, and thanks for those that have made it, and thanks for those that have tuned in online. Please, for those that are dialing in virtually, do let us know in the chat who you are, where you're dialing in from today, but great to have you on board. So, bit of audience participation to get everyone going. I want a quick show of hands. Whose first in-person event of the year is this? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, good, about a third of the room. That's a good one to start things off. And is this anyone's first event where it's beach club themed? Just a quick show of hands. This should be everyone. If it's not, I want to find out what other events you've been going to. And finally, a quick show of hands, and be honest here, who just came for the bottomless pizza and Aperol Spritz? I don't know why half my team are putting their hands up, but okay, so look, you're in for a great day. Just want to introduce myself. My name's Matthew, VP of Marketing at Content Square. I've been here for about 5.5 years, and you can probably tell, as I mentioned, from my accent, I'm from the UK. So we asked all of our main stage speakers for fun facts, and some of them are absolutely epic. But I'll kick things off, short and simple. Randomly, I once rode an ostrich. So there we go. But feel free to ask me to elaborate in the break. Okay, so if we haven't already, please do get that out of office on. Tell your boss, tell your team that you're an all-day conference, a really important and serious conference, where there's no Wi-Fi and no signal. Just gives you a good excuse not to answer emails. But please do sit back and enjoy the beach club for the day. So a few club rules. Firstly, no clubber left behind. There's lots of people that have arrived today without colleagues or without people they know. If you see somebody standing awkwardly on their own, sipping maybe one too many Aperol Spritz, please do make them feel welcome. Bring them into your conversation, have a chat. You know, one of the great things about finally being back to in-person events is we can have that human experience with networking. Secondly, there is no lifeguard, so spritz at your own risk. It's drink as much as you want, not drink as much as you can. So do remember that and drink responsibly. Number 3, Speedos are not permitted. So if you see anybody that's taken the beach theme too far, drape them in a towel or just point them in the exit. And there's a few French people giving me evils here. Speedos should not be allowed, not just in the beach club, but anywhere. And no budgie smugglers as well, Sam. Okay, so a little treat for all of those that are in the in-person event today, and sorry everyone that's dialed in virtually. We're doing a quick raffle. So some amazing prizes here. You're eligible just by turning up. So if you stick around at 2:30, we're going to announce the winners of the raffle. And no, Content Square and our beloved partners, sadly, you're not included in this. Oh, sorry. So look, what's the club lineup? We've got an amazing array of guests today. It reads like a who's who in the digital and e-commerce space. First up, just after me, we've got Albert, SVP from Content Square, and then followed by Vanya. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, the Chief Experience Officer of King Living, but has been an absolute legend and recorded her presentation that hopefully the technical team have assured me it's going to be a smooth transition after Albert's presentation, but she's not feeling great at all. So thank you, Vanya, for recording your presentation. Then we'll have a beachside or a poolside chat with Kathy and Simon. Then after the break, we've got the fabulous Christine from L'Oreal. And then we're diving into a panel session with Jess, Mitt, and Stefan. And then to finish the day, we have Ben and Matt. If you get confused between the Matts, Matt's the taller, more blonde, less good-looking Matt, if you're getting confused. But they'll be doing a digital accessibility session to round it off. And then, as I mentioned, 12:30, let the games begin. Please do stick around. We've got a wood-fire pizza cart, we've got Aperol on tap, and some other fantastic little quirks and prizes. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll be closing down the beach club, maybe for the after party, for those of you that are still here. So Alice has assured me she can put the marketing card behind the bar. So we'll see who's around at 3 o'clock. Okay, so some of you might be wondering, okay, Content Square, we're bringing you this event today. Kind of heard of you, or maybe you haven't heard of us. Just want to give a couple of slides to give you some context. Effectively, we are a digital experience analytics platform. But what does that mean? Well, effectively, we fit in between tools like GA and Adobe Analytics, I'm sure the majority in the room will be well familiar with, and A/B testing, personalization tools, the likes of A/B Tasty, the best of breed personalization and experimentation engine. And essentially, we help brands to access and action insights at speed for our unique behavioral insights. And look, there's a variety of features which you can see up on the screen. There's customer journeys, zoning, session replay, IA alerts, but I'm not going to bore you with the features, but please do come over to our stand after. We've got our lovely team on display that can happily show you a quick few minutes demo of what the platform can do and how it can help you. And of course, don't take my word for it. It's the obligatory client slide, but we work with over 900 brands globally. So, a quick thank you to our fantastic sponsors, without whom this might have been a dry event. So we might not be able to afford all of the amazing decorations and unlimited Aperol. So we've got A/B Tasty, Botify, and Drumline Digital. So I think for those living under a rock, you should all be familiar with A/B Tasty. But if you're not, they're the best of breed personalization and experimentation platform. And they work with brands, over 1,000 brands, I believe, across the world. One of our trusted partners. They work with the likes of Tommy Hilfiger, L'Oreal, Ali, Hum, and many others. They've got a stand, so please do go and say hi to Eileen, Julia, and the team. Botify. Botify are a game-changing enterprise SEO platform, and they really help companies to drive more traffic via organic search. They actually recently launched their operations in APAC, but they already work with the likes of Australia Post, Sportbet, Medibank, News Corp, and a whole lot more. So please do go and say hello to the Botify team. Botify team, if we're in the room, there we go. So a couple of hands up. So please do go and speak to the team here and say hello. And finally, Drumline Digital, Content Square partner, and they apply behavioral analytics to create more impact with your experimentation and personalization platforms. And they're experts in scaling, testing programs to improve speed, results, and accuracy. So again, they've got a stand, so please do go and say hi. If you can put your hands up, the Drumline team. There we go. So please do go and say hello to the gents there. And again, they're all friendly and approachable, but word of warning. If anyone tries to give you the hard sell, let me know, and I'll throw them in the pool. Okay, so first on stage, I'd love to welcome Albert. And Albert's fun fact is he once broke his ankle on the dance floor in Prague, didn't realize, and kept on dancing it off for 2 hours. So I'm not sure if that's testament to his incredible macho powers of pain receptors, or it's just the fact he had one too many Jaeger bombs. So please, a warm welcome for Albert Nell.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome to today's session. So, we live in the age of the customer, and they've got exceptional expectations from us. There's also a lot of power that sits with these customers. They have access to power, pricing comparisons, it's customer reviews, all that information that they can engage with prior to even engaging with you as a brand. They also have high expectations in terms of how the experience that they want online. And it's our responsibility to ensure that we provide the experience. Because if they don't like the experience they have of your brand, they don't just tell you, they tell everyone. So Salesforce came out with a study where they looked at 80% of customers say that they expect the experience of a brand to be the same as the product and the services. 67% of customers expect you to understand their need and the experience that they expect. And 67% of customers is willing to pay more for a better experience online. And I think as marketers, we understand that more and more how important the experience is for customers. So if we've got a misalignment between what the customer experience is, it can be disastrous to not only your customer, but you as a brand. And looking at this, it looks like our summer in Sydney, which was, I think we all can agree, was pretty disappointing. So 10 years ago, Content Square made a bet. And the bet was that experience in brand is going to be as important as a differentiator as what product and services is. And we spent the last 10 years in terms of really investing in how do you understand experiences of customers in a digital world. So when we started out, we had the traditional web analytics tools that does a good job in terms of providing you the what your customers are doing, what channels they came from, what pages they visit, and also what products they bought. But what they missed is that 90% of the engagement that your customer have in between all the clicks. And this is where we started really investing and really understanding that behavior of customers in a digital world between the clicks. It's not just about the clicks. And this is where we invested in experience analytics technology to really understand what your customers are looking for. It's not just about the who, but what and why they do things in your digital world. I like to use the example of a physical store. You go shopping, and then for the store, it's not just important to understand which aisles you go to or what products you buy, but also your body language, your sentiment, your engagement while you're in the shop floor. In an online world, we don't have that access. It's a black box. So where we come in is really understanding what people do, why they do it, and how they engage with you. Are they frustrated? Are they delighted? And how do you make that experience better in a digital world? So over the last 10 years, Content Square is not a nice to have anymore. It becomes a must-have for any marketing stack. And you'll start seeing more and more focus as we move into the digital world that experiences for the brand is extremely critical for your success. So today, there's 3 topics that I want to discuss that should be part of your agenda for 2022. The first one is all around privacy, the big elephant in the room. What do we do in a world where we're starting to understand less and less about who our customers are, where the focus is more on why they do certain things? Second one is very important. It's democratization of data. How do you, with a volume of data, ensure that you can put data in everyone's hand to ensure that they make data-driven decisions when they go to market? And the third one is speed is key. When we talk about speed, it's not just about the ability or the performance of your site, but it's also focusing on the speed and the agility for you to adapt to specific changes in your environment or in your online world. So if we talk about the big elephant in the room is privacy. And privacy is becoming a really critical part of our life. Customers are getting more and more savvy around the data that we collect from them, what we use that data for. Also those creepy little retargeting methods that we use or that you see, or everyone's got this big theory that Siri and Google keeps on listening to us and they start marketing. So they want less. They want us to use less of their data. And we need to adapt in terms of how do we provide services in a world where we're going to have less and less information about our customers. But it's not just our customers that are focused around providing less and less data about themselves, privacy data. But it's also the regulators that's starting to lock down and clamp down and putting regulation in place in terms of what we allow to keep and use of our customers. What personal information? And there's been, over the last 2 years, significant fines handed out across the world, and they will continue to hand out more and more fines as there's a bigger clampdown on privacy and what customers are allowing us to use, and the right that we have and the consent that we need to give to get from customers to actually access and leverage their data. So you'll know less and less about your customer. At Content Square, we believe that there will be no cookies in the next 3 years. And you look at a lot of people that go, I don't think so. We're moving that way. There's more and more people that's less interested in giving them their personal data to them. And like it or not, that is what they want. They want to give you less, which means that we need to start marketing differently. We need to start adapting to continue to stay relevant as we move forward. So it's not anymore about who our customers are or the visitors are in our digital world, whether it's online on the web or on mobile. It is about what they do, their behavior, and why they do certain things. And we're going to have to start adapting in terms of how do we address and build the different experiences. So the first case study I want to talk to today is a company that has really had to learn to adapt to a world where they don't know who their customers are. It's also a brand that I think are close to hearts, close to a lot of your hearts. And that's Lovehoney. So, fun fact, 70% of their customers visit their site incognito. Understandably. So, they had to learn of how do you understand your customer behavior in a world where they don't know who they are. So the use case that I want to use is they did a Black Friday campaign where they wanted to drive people to the sex toys deals page. But they launched the campaign 10 days prior to the Black Friday to really understand exactly the customer behavior on that page. So from the home page, they will get through to the deal page, and from there will be a filter, and the filter will have subcategories, and from their subcategories, people can select the different profiles. So if we look at, there's the subcategories, how the page performed. So Matt briefly showed you earlier this journey diagram. So just quickly to tell you what the journey diagram is. So the inner circle of the diagram is your home page or product page. And then from there, we are able to track the journeys in terms of where the customer will go next through your website or in your mobile app. So if we look at the performance of the site, so firstly, customers that visited the site had to look through 4 different list pages before they got to where they want. Secondly, there was less than 24% of the people actually reached the PDP page. And then less than 13% or 13% of users exited immediately when they hit that product page. So in general, this is not really a good experience. And if you look at the Black Friday campaign they want to drive, probably not very successful. So what did they do? They started analyzing more. So they used the zoning, where they actually put these filters on top of their website using Content Square to really understand what the click rates are and the expression and where customers, what they're actually seeing. So you'll see that on the home page, the actual link through to the product page or the deal page was the highest clicked page. But if you go to the deal page, you'll see that the pagination element was the highest clicked one. And the filters were the least clicked element on the deals page. But when you look at the conversion rate, you see that the conversion rate on the filters were the highest of all the highest conversion rate. So the Lovehoney team was extremely agile in terms of how they were able to adapt. So very quickly, before Black Friday, they were able to take the main categories in the filters and move them out into the deals page as quick links. And then started launching that immediately before, 3 days before Black Friday. And then on Black Friday, they had the results. So they immediately saw that just by moving the main categories out of the filters into the deals page, it increased the click rate onto the specific categories by almost 30%, more than double the paginations that you saw before. What was also very important is to see that the click rate from first click from moving onto the page was less than 10 seconds. So it immediately attracted their attention, and they're able to engage immediately into the page. And then the conversion rate was almost 15% on those categories. So if you look at the ultimate result, they had a 17% drop in bounce rate, a 20% reduction in the exit, but a 30% increase in conversion rate. And it saved their campaign. Understanding, just please remember again, they did not know who their customers were. They purely based their decisions and the changes they made on behaviors that they analyzed on their actual pages itself. So we're anticipating that we will live in a cookieless world within the next 3 years. Like it or not, that's where we're moving to. At Content Square, we've recognized it, and we've built a cookieless version of our technology. We're not actively positioning it or positioning it to our customers. There's still some limitations for analytics tools in a cookieless world, but it's active, and we're learning. And we will continue to learn from this, that when we get to that point where it is cookieless, we will have a mature product that we can provide you an experience in terms of how do we actually understand our customers in a cookieless world. So the next topic is all about democratization of data. This is a very important topic because there's so much data around. And it's so important for us to stay relevant by leveraging that data in the correct way. And I think most of you will think that you're a data-driven company, and most of you, based on the data, you're making decisions based on data. But Accenture came out with a study not too long ago, which showed that 48, almost half of the employees, still made decisions based on gut feel and not based on data, even though the data is there. That is a massive risk to your business if you still have employees that will make decisions based on gut feel instead of the data. At Content Square, we've got a saying: decisions made without data is just yet another opinion. So it's important for us to really focus on how do we build and drive a data-driven culture. So to highlight some of that today, I want to take you through a standard Poppet model. So Poppet is essentially what data analysts use to look at challenges and understanding challenges within organizations. It focuses on people, organization, process, and IT. So if we look at the people problem first, 75% of customer or employees are uncomfortable or feel intimidated working with data. The second stat surprised me. A third of employees has actually taken a sick day because of data-induced stress. Think about that next time someone says they're not available. And then 5 days a year of productivity is lost because of a lack of data or understanding of data. I think that's a little bit conservative, to be honest with you. I think if we take it back to our daily lives, how many times do you ask for reports or information, you get it, it's wrong, you send it back, it comes back again, it's wrong. I actually think that's a very conservative number, but let's go with that. But data is an important part for us to ensure that we stay relevant and ahead of the game. So it's important that we start driving that whole data-driven culture, because some of your top employees will leave for other companies that are data-driven because it's such an important of decision-making, such an important part of decision-making. So just to show you quickly from a there we go. Okay, so with Content Square, we deploy a tag onto your Chrome site. The moment we deploy the tag, we start capturing data, every single movement and element on your website. What we then can do is, with a click of a button, with no tagging plan, be able to start analyzing every single element on your website. So it can be exposure rate, it can be click rate, it can be conversion rate, revenue being generated. So through this, you are able to, with a click of a button, able to see real live data on your website. So suddenly your website just becomes like a dashboard for you to view all these different understandings and views of your website. So think about it going into a trade or content meeting where you need to present on how content has performed on your website. And you are able to very quickly, without preparation, go into a meeting with your team and be able to present this and show them exactly how your different content elements performed. But when we talk about democratization of data, it's important that everyone leverages data. So at Content Square, we believe that it's important that everyone should be able to use the tools and effectively create value out of the data. So on a quarterly basis, we run the Content Square Quarterly Champions, where we look at the top 250 users of the platform. So I've extracted some of the APJ customers here, and it's fascinating to see that this is not just data scientists or analysts. Our top performer in the region is a UX UI designer, which you wouldn't really associate with being very data savvy. So this is important where you start providing the tool sets for your customers across your group to really effectively engage with your tools. Also, it's important when you start driving a data-driven culture that you start celebrating the success. And what we see is a lot of these champions that we recognize on a quarterly basis are very proud to post this on LinkedIn or social media, their recognition. And I really encourage you internally to also go and celebrate people that have really adopted a data-driven culture. But I'll let you into a little secret. Content Square is not the solution to drive a data-driven culture. We provide tools that makes it easy for you to consume data around experiences that your customers have in a digital world. But creating a data-driven culture is up to you. Senior leadership, executives within organizations that really need to drive it from the top down, the whole need to create a data-driven culture. So when we look at it, the important elements of driving it, you need to want to be a data-driven company. Empower your people, get the right tools to make it easy for people to consume and analyze the data. Build the strategy and then encourage and celebrate the success around this. This is not easy, but it can be done. So the third topic I want to discuss is all around speed. So when we talk about speed, it's not just the performance of your website. It's the agility for you to make changes based on our understanding of your customer and the experiences that they have online. But yes, speed is important. And over the last year or two, Google has really normalized page speeds and performance metrics based on their core web vitals. And we all talk about our LCPs, our TBTs, and our CLSs. And if you asked me a couple of years ago what those were, I would have thought it's something that you buy in a street market in Byron Bay. But now we all know that it's the largest contentful paint, total blocking time, and cumulative layout shift. And these are important aspects when we start looking at creating performance in your web or your digital world. So some of the studies shows just the impact that speed has to experience, but also conversion rate. And in an online world, 1 second can mean a 16% reduction or impact on your experience that your customer have. A second delay in a mobile page loading can have a 20% impact on your conversion rate in your mobile world. These are very big numbers for a very short period of time. We're living in a world where people are absolutely impatient. They want things to happen right now. So it's important for us to ensure that we can understand the speed with your site. So within Content Square, we've got our speed analysis tool that really measures the speed and performance of your website across all your pages. But importantly, it's not just to understand the speed, but to understand the impact. So there's an impact quantification module as well that gives you an insight into the impact and to quantify the impact of that speed or a delay in your site, which is such an important part when you start analyzing different content pieces or elements that you deploy to your site. So the use case I want to talk about today is more focused on agility and speed to market. So it's around Pepe Jeans. And what they use is they use our insights tool, which allows them to really set up some alerts to have certain thresholds and KPIs across their site where they will get alerted when certain thresholds are met. So on a 9 o'clock one Monday morning, they suddenly got an alert to say that there's a 41% bounce rate or 41% above their threshold bounce rate on their homepage. What happened? They started looking into understand exactly what happened, and they suddenly saw there was a 250% increase in traffic onto the homepage. So they started digging in even deeper because they saw that there's a 119% increase in the bounce rate. So they went back to the journey analysis and they started comparing last weekend's results to this weekend. They also started analyzing new visitors versus returning visitors. So they could suddenly see there's a massive change in terms of new visitors coming to the site and then exiting immediately. So what happened? So they found the culprit. It was a Dua Lipa campaign that they launched on the Vogue website over the weekend that drove so much traffic to their homepage. But what they saw is, so there's 20,000 people that were driven that morning to their website with a 0 conversion rate, with people dropping off within 4.3 seconds from adding. So that when they looked at the journey, they saw that everyone landed on the webpage, the homepage. They didn't like what they saw on the homepage, wasn't interesting, and they just exited. So very few people actually clicked on to get to the campaign page where the Dua Lipa campaign was sitting. So very quickly, they analyzed, how do they change this? So within 3 hours of understanding that there was a problem, they were able to redirect that campaign. So from the Vogue site, it went directly to the Dua Lipa campaign page instead of the home page. And that reduced the bounce rate by 75% and increased their conversion rate enormously and essentially saved that campaign. And they wouldn't have known what the performance of that campaign was if they didn't have that level of information. So the agility for them to, within a couple of hours, to make a real impact and real changes was such an important part. So we have to get familiar with our LCPs, our TBTs, and our CLSs. It's important for us to make sure that our digital world performs according to the expectations of our customers. But it's also important for us to understand and be able to quantify the impact it might have if there is a certain delay in certain pages or items or content that you create. But then also, it's important for you to have access to the behavioral insights for you to make quick and agile decisions to change and potentially save campaigns in your world. So in summary, a cookieless world is coming. Prepare for that. I'd like you to go back and go and sit with your team and ask them, how prepared are you for a cookieless world? What does your environment look like in a cookieless environment. And are you ready? Democratization of data. It is important to put data in everyone's hands and give them the ability to easily consume data and make decisions based on data. And then lastly, speed is critical. There's agility to make changes or to adapt to whatever influences your brand, or ensuring that your digital world performs according to the expectation of your customers. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the day.
Thank you, Albert. You never actually addressed the answer of how you did your ankle. I'm just curious to know the dance move that was involved in breaking an ankle on a dance floor, but maybe you can show us later. Great. So next up, and we're going to hope that this technology switch will work, we've got Vanya, who's our Chief Experience Officer at King Living. And her fun fact is that she once danced in a hip-hop video, which again, I suspect is the reason that she conveniently avoided the fact that there was going to be a DJ and a dance floor later on. So let's see if the technology switch works, and we'll switch over to listen to Vanya. Drum roll.
Hi everyone, I'm sorry I can't be there in person with you today. I'm Vanya and I'm the CXO of King Living. I wanted to share how we are recreating personalised in-store experiences online. In Australia, King is a 45-year brand. We've been at the forefront of furniture design since David King founded King Living in 1977. We have a reputation that's built on our steel frame, and our style is quite contemporary and modern and simplistic. Today, we have 25 showrooms across 7 countries, and we operate across 6 websites. We're in Australia, naturally, in New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, Canada, China, and the United Kingdom as of December last year. The King difference, it really is personalisation in the showroom. All of our products are made to order, and we can customise items to suit your specific needs, whether you need seats that are slightly deeper, slightly taller, with extra comfort, with extra layers, double the back support. We really can customise every single detail to your specific needs. We also don't carry any stock, and we are a vertical manufacturer. We own every part of the process, which is also why we can control what goes into our manufacturing and exclude nasties like formaldehyde from fabrics, for example. The showroom is a premium experience. We offer one-on-one consultations, and you get personalised recommendations that start with your needs. There are endless customizations when somebody walks into the showroom, and the way that we do sell is we start with what their lifestyle is like first, what their living space is like first, and then what their tastes are. This is very specific to King, and when the e-commerce team started, we all went into the showroom and learn how the customer actually gets sold to and how they interact with us. We've interviewed not only the showroom managers, but also the consultants, the sales consultants, and we've spoken to a few customers as well in terms of why did they actually choose King on the day and why are they going ahead with their order. So that sort of founded the basis of our, okay, cool, we need to recreate this experience online. With endless customization also, there are some challenges in how we translate that into an online space. If we have a look at our active sofa packages, there are a few more than what we see here, but let's say we have 500 in 400 colors with 3 timber finishes. That gives us 600,000 combinations. This might be absolutely amazing when you're a customer in the showroom because we can tailor something that's uniquely yours. But when it goes into an online space, does it look like it's customized to your needs, or does it look like it's just too hard to understand? Too much choice we've seen online can, create analysis paralysis, where we've had sessions where customers abandoned just because this particular stage, the cupboard choosing stage, is too complicated. And I agree, it's definitely too complicated. We needed to go back to the beginning and understand how we would recreate that experience online and with what team. Growing the team, we are a very new sort of e-commerce area, and in terms of King, 45-year legacy. The website came online, the earliest I can find it in Wayback Machine was 2008. It was a brochure website until April 2020, in which case our partners, Mindarc, had created e-commerce functionality in a matter of weeks, and we were able to sell and take orders when our showrooms were closed. Fast forward to last year, August 2021 is when I came on board as the first e-commerce specialist, and I had a team of one, just myself. I quickly started building the team and having tech stack and CX data discussions. I was very lucky to come into the business that has a talented CTO, Jack Broughton, and he already was looking at particular audience and Content Square as well, but just didn't have the functionality, didn't have the people to basically be on the tools. When I started, I also realized I definitely need an A/B testing platform. So A/B Tasty is the one that I onboarded, because we needed to make these decisions with, the data and the science behind us, and not just, the new e-commerce person wanting to make some changes and make the website their own. Fast forward to today, we definitely focus on DX and CX. We are data-based and customer first, and we are now a team of 6. This is our lovely team. I was the head of e-commerce first, and now I've been promoted to CXO. I also look after the CS department with 45 members across the globe as well. That's another presentation for another day. What we can see here is we have our UX and DX lead, Zani, who uses Content Square, A/B Tasty, particular audience with me on a daily basis. Then also we have the e-commerce website team, so e-commerce manager Vicky, Eugenia and Sandy are assistants, and they use Content Square to understand opportunities in merchandising for our landing pages, home pages, categories, and sale pages. And we also have the global online showroom manager, Holly, who looks after the team of 15 who support our online orders. The benefits of having behavioural data at our fingertips. Well, this is very important because we needed to get started quite quickly. And we realised early on that it's going to have to be an educated next step. So without data and insight and action, we wouldn't be seeing any improvement. And I didn't want to go into a legacy brand, a premium brand and privately owned brand and, give advice and then it'd be just my opinion. I needed the data to be behind me so that I could actually have our customers' needs at front of mind. So this is what happens when you design without data. So a week before I started, this hamburger menu on desktop, yes, it's on desktop, this hamburger menu on desktop was rolled out, and it replaced an inline navigation structure, a mega menu with imagery and, very, very simple, very easy to use layout. And this was actually based on the personal preference of somebody at the time. So the problem with this is that it was very hard to find any categories, any landing pages, any product. And in order to get to level 3s, you really have to hover at the right time and then hold that hover. And we've got recordings and recordings of people absolutely struggling. So what happens when you design without data and you roll something out because somebody in the business, said that that's the way to do it? Well, you basically hurt the experience. We saw a 435% increase in sessions with search the week after that went live. And our search was out of the box Magento. So it had absolutely no AI, no intelligence behind it, and it caused findability issues. For example, here for a quick search of sofa, our best-selling products don't have the word sofa in them. They are called, something package 10. So it's very hard for us to make these decisions and then, expect them to basically, bring in the dollars when they're just made without any kind of insights. That's absolutely what I'd like to avoid. This is why we need to optimize and experiment. So I wanted to show you a little bit about what our experience stack looked like onboarding. We already had Hotjar, so that was pretty exciting because we did have some, information about what was happening on the time. We were very quick to identify all of the issues in our experience. Our areas of concern were not only findability, usability, and conversion, but it was also, around the frustration that we were causing to customers. So we were seeing rage clicks. I mentioned analysis paralysis. There was a lot of hesitation and abandonment at stages when you really should have just seamlessly flowed through to the next stage. We onboarded AB Tasty to quickly test and gather our intelligence to inform next steps, and also to hold the patches live so that we could have time to get the dev to come in to clean up and make those winning variants live. So we've got quite a few active patches running as well. We've focused on navigation, PDP, PLP, landing pages, and checkout. I brought on a particular audience to recommend. We've got so much product, such a wide offering of product, and no recommendation function at all. So now we've got recommendation widgets on our PDPs, on no results searches, on checkouts, blogs, Minicart, and PA is now going to also power our searches of next week, which means that we have that intelligent as we've spent months mapping all of our search terms and helping the tool understand what to recommend for our customers so that we can really supercharge that findability. Content Square we used on a daily basis, not only just for merchandising, but we also optimize and revise, and we analyze where we've gone right and where we've gone wrong. We use it daily on homepage, landing pages, sale pages. PLP and PDP are getting a massive redesign, so we're using them. We're using the tool to get quite a lot of data in terms of our informed design decisions. And also our content team are using it for content pages and blogs. So we've actually got marketing using Content Square as well, which is amazing. Everyone's really excited about it. So a little bit about what the findability solution looks like. These are recommendation widgets on our PDPs. We've got recommended for you and then also opt-in bought with, and it looks pretty amazing. Particular audience has been so great to work with in terms of onboarding this logic and onboarding the tool in a record amount of time. And it's across all of our global websites. New navigation, this went live on the 11th of May. So no more hamburger on desktop. Yay, nobody please repeat that mistake. And you can see here how easy it is to actually navigate through to the correct categories, level 1s and level 2s. There are even some level 3s there, and the images take you direct to products. So we do have the menu working harder. We can also see through Content Square that if we look at the click rate of the old menu on the right, 3.84%, and the new menu on the left, 12%, we can see that we have a 223% increase in click rate. So it's really important to know that that design was effective, and we will be testing it further and doing quite a lot of A/B testing to see how we can tweak it more and make it work even harder. But overall, we've had some really good data coming through confirming that the mega menu is definitely the right thing to design first. In terms of attractiveness rate, so Content Square is amazing because it gives you so many different metrics. We often look at click rate, and we also look at attractiveness rate because it's the number of people who have interacted after they've seen a content block or a zone. So here we can see a 230% increase in attractiveness, with the new menu bringing in 13% attractiveness rate versus 4 on the previous navigation. So that's definitely a good difference. In terms of total clicks, this is the same amount of days. This is 7 days. So the old menu had 4,000 clicks in the menu, and you can see that across the inline menu, we've had like 19,000 clicks. So 363% in terms of that week. So the week of the new menu versus the last week of the old menu. And what's worth noting is also that we have had a slight traffic drop as well when we launched the new menu, and we can see how much sort of interaction that's getting. So what happened also, the new menu created a difference in behavior in the journey through the site. So here's Content Square. We're looking at the journeys on our mapped out areas. You can see that the black area site exit, so that's somebody we've lost straight away. That's a 15% reduction. And we've actually had a 21% uplift in conversion overall, which is incredible. That translates to millions of dollars for us, and it's a well worth exercise. Old menu versus new menu, journey to PLP. See, we've actually had a massive 41% uplift in users reaching PLPs in the new menu versus the old menu. They don't have to work harder. They don't have to rely on search. They don't have to, try and work their way through the site. Everything is laid out in front of them, and that's exactly what we want. We want to remove that, customer energy score. Like, we definitely want to make it less work for them. And in terms of PDPs, we've also had a 67% uplift in users reaching the PDPs, which solves the findability problem that we had with the old menu. So this is definitely working for us. And we will be happily revising the menu and making sure that we can get even more out of it. Another findability sort of issue that we've had is that we are very content heavy. Being a premium brand, there's this notion that we need to talk constantly about brand. We've done a variation between A and B versions. So A is the original, where you've got content blocks before you actually get to the product. And then B, we send you straight to the product. And in terms of this particular test, we had a 90% increase in all of the Jasper package revenue. So all the Jasper packages, which are on this sort of range page is what we call it. And we actually saw a 15% increase in clicks on product images. So not on Shop Now. Shop Now button actually had less clicks. View dimensions went up as well. But what we noticed is that our users don't actually need a button to be able to go to products. So that's influencing our design decisions in the whole PLP PDP redesign. Another issue we've had with conversion as well, inherited problems, is with the PDP. We had an inactive appearance in all of our CTAs, and we use a lot of internal speak. Like, if I asked any one of you what a T104 is, you probably couldn't tell me that that's a timber shelf that's 104 centimetres. So how is the customer going to understand this and then make a selection and then be, absolutely comforted knowing that they've made the right choice when they don't even understand it? So this was a big drop-off zone for us. And it also has no focal point because it doesn't look like anything's happening. Everything is grayed out. Everything looks very inactive and anemic. So what we've done in the test is we've just bolded the important areas, translated the internal speak, and made that CTA bigger and active looking. And we had a 15% increase in revenue while that test was running. Again, millions of dollars when you look at it in an annual sense. Our roadmap is very exciting. We definitely are focusing on improving the online experience, and we want that to be a fractionless omni experience. We are going channelless. Internally, we don't mind where the sale comes from. We just want to have the king customer be happy, and it's the first time that I've had that in an organisation, and it's really refreshing. Customer is definitely first across all parts of the business, which is, a refreshing way to focus your efforts. It's not about this team doing better than the other team. It's about customer first. So our areas of focus pretty much remain the same. We are still focusing on findability. We are focusing on conversion. We are focusing on redesigning PLPs. We don't even have filters and attributes yet because of the brochure style of the website that we have, landing page. And so for family category, and then you get to products. So we're basically going back and redesigning that. We're also redesigning the PDPs and simplifying Content Square. You can see here, you can see the number of clicks it takes to understand how many cover options that they can go through. That's 10.8 clicks in the red. And above the CTA, which gets 2 clicks, 2.39 is, do you need help? So we obviously have a lot to learn yet. We obviously have a lot to clean up yet. In terms of checkout, that's also an opportunity for us. Site search is being improved next week. through a particular audience. We're also unifying customer data across the business and optimizing the business cross-channel. And I really want to focus on global localization, where we are focusing on content that's relevant to our local markets. A few takeaways: challenge everything, especially inherited design. Identify the key areas of concerns early on. Small changes really do produce significant results. And if you're retail facing, please spend time in store and get to see what your customers are experiencing from your retail colleagues. Talk to your customers at any point that you can. If you can talk to them one-on-one and even do surveys, that's amazing data, because you really get to understand experience and the frustration and how you can avoid that. And always, always, always be data focused and customer first. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share what we're doing. Like I said, we're very early on in the CX side at King, but we're very excited and we've achieved quite a lot. Again, I'm sorry I'm missing out on the Aperols, but definitely have one for me. Have a good day.
Right. And Vanya, if you're dialing in today, yeah, thank you so much for recording that, and get better soon. Yeah, recording. Okay, so we're going to adjust the timing slightly. We'll be breaking at 10:02 to allow 20 minutes for the beachside chat, but I'd love to introduce Kathy and Simon. So fun fact about Simon is he married his hairdresser. And these were, when you see Simon, in the days that he had hair. And fun fact about Kathy is that she writes songs, particularly for and about friends and colleagues for milestones in their lives, which I absolutely love. I used to write poems for my colleagues. It was probably more sort of smutty and just generally jokey, but maybe we could team up and do something about the CX Circle for a blog. But please welcome Kathy and Simon.
Hello? Mine aren't always polite, Matt.
Let's get to that.
Right.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Kathy, for joining us today. So in our beachside chat today, we're going to be talking all about how to enhance customer journeys for longer nurture cycles, and how you built your CRO program centered around customer behavioral insight. So to kick us off, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at CSU?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the Associate Director of Brand and Performance Marketing, and it's great to be in a room with people again. I'm based in, right now, my home in Wodonga. So it's wonderful to be seeing faces that aren't just my children and my dogs while I'm working. So I oversee the Charles Sturt brand and how it's applied across all of the touch points for our stakeholder groups, whether that's prospective students or its community or its industry, various partners that we have. And as well as that, oversee all of our recruitment campaigns and our always-on activity across digital and traditional media.
Fantastic. And how is your digital team organised?
So we have a small team, and I feel like I need to have a chat to our previous speaker about how she went from 1 to 6 in 2 years.
Impressive.
It is impressive. We have 4 people in our digital space. We're very product-based because of the size. I would love to be able to evolve us more to customer journey, but we just don't have the team for it yet. So we have 2 that look after Marketo and our CRM, so they look after all of our landing pages and they look after all of our direct campaigns. And then myself and our number 4, we work on all of the paid activity, the integrations with our organic, the overall strategy, and working really closely with our agencies. And because we are such a small team, we really, really rely on our agency. Shout out to Merkle. There's a few ex-Merkles in the room here. So they help us with the technology implementation, the enablement, and all of the support there. They also look after the execution and optimisation of our paid activity. And we don't have a resource dedicated to CRO, although that's a dream that I keep talking about. So they also manage our CRO program for us.
One day it'll come true. It's so important to have really good partners, right?
Absolutely, it is.
So what would you say your main challenges, your current challenges around customer journey experience?
Our biggest challenges are probably slightly different to a lot of the speakers and a lot of people in the room today, and that's the length of the journey for someone to choose to study higher education. On average, it takes about 2 years to make the decision from starting to think about it to then applying. And that might be for high school students who in year 10 are told that they need to start thinking about the subjects they're taking to get into the course. Of course, there are some of the high school students that are told in August that applications open in 2 weeks, so they need to figure out what they're doing with the rest of their lives. Simon confessed over breakfast this morning.
Never did I ever.
But the same applies for mature age students as well coming in to study. And we have a lot of people come in their 30s, in their 40s, who have always wanted to do. They've always wanted to be a nurse. They've always wanted to be a teacher. They've always wanted to do whatever, but life got in the way. And so now that they're a bit older, they've got commitments, they might have family, they've got work, they've got income. It's really different from an 18-year-old taking the natural next progression for a lot of them. There's now sacrifices that need to be made. So being able to help people on that journey and understand how they can go about achieving that longer term game and not sacrifice too much in the short term is really important to us. The other thing that's probably a newer challenge for us is that the decision point seems to have changed. Previously, you chose a course you wanted to study at a university. Decision made when you apply. And then it was, well, I'll have a look at a few. If I don't get one, and you might get 3 offers. Decision point is when you were made an offer. Which one will I accept? It's changed completely over the past couple of years. We're seeing on average that a high school student, because we have data on them more than we do on mature age, are receiving on average 7 offers to university. They can accept all of those offers. There's nothing in the system to say that they can only choose one. And we're then seeing them make that decision in February when they're starting in March. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into managing that. But from a CX view, what that's really done from us is changed the journey that we need to focus on in that paid space. Previously, we went to when someone completed an application. Great, they're handed over to the admissions team, the current students team, and off they go. And then it was a little bit into helping them or encouraging them to accept the offer from us. Now we're going all the way through to February, or whatever the intake is, to explain why Charles Sturt is right for them and how we can help them achieve whatever their longer term goal is. So we've almost got 3 consideration phases now that we're working through rather than just that one. So our journey is a little more complicated, and that's something that we're still working through at the moment.
And I can imagine they'd be expecting the same kind of consistent experience across all those channels, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Online, offline, the direct conversations that they're having with some of our staff. By that stage, often they're being spoken to by lecturers or by course directors, and so we need to make sure that brand is really consistent the whole way through.
Yeah, fantastic. And why, can you tell the audience why you chose Content Square to help make your decisions around customer journey?
Other than Fraser ringing me every month for about 3 years. True story. One thing that we found...
Well, it paid off, right?
We use Adobe as our tech, and we were seeing through the Adobe Analytics that we were seeing a really big drop-off in our application form, the cart for us, and wanted to see how we could improve that. This was something that was in my mind when I was having one of these monthly conversations with Fraser. I think you're in this one as well, actually, Simon, and I started talking about how we could understand what was happening and why people were dropping off on particular pages. And so the guys explained to me, or started to do a bit of a demo around how we could do some of the field analysis and things like that around what's happening and which pieces are actually causing the friction or causing the problem for our prospects. And so we negotiated a 2-month contract where we had a trial, our proof of concept, and focused on that application form. And the results from that were phenomenal between Content Square and Merkle and what they've pulled together. We had a really solid action plan designed to deliver uplift in our application form, which we're putting into place now. And what that enabled me to do was to prove the potential ROI from it. There's no surprise, like most of our sectors, higher ed has been smashed for a couple of years. If I lend any money outside my normal budget, I have to put pitch after pitch after pitch. But this proved the benefit that it was going to give. So that was probably the thing that tipped us over, being able to have that proof and show it. The other thing that really helped us was the session replays and being able to see some of the data came back. There was one that said that one field was particularly entered a number of times. And so, but it's the easiest field, it just makes sense. And we talk about data and gut. I'm like, but gut says. It's like, yes, but data says. So being able to see people's experiences on that page really help solidify that.
Yeah, and then not having to sift through hours and hours of session replay to find the one that displays the behaviour you're trying to fix,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
You mentioned earlier around how long the decision. I had no idea, right? The cycle's so long,
Yep.
right? So how are you optimizing user journeys over such long nurture cycles?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one for us because there is a bit of a balance between managing our own timelines because we have application dates that we would like people to apply by, and the earlier the better for our internal systems. And then also understanding where people are at. So we use all the metrics available to us from our analytics, now Content Square as well, all the Marketo and everything that we use. We've got a number of different audiences that we build out. Probably email is one of the biggest pieces that we use to manage that as well. And we've got a number of different streams based on what we know about the prospects, and there's a lot of progressive profiling that we need to do through that. One thing that we've added in probably over the last 6 or 7 months is just asking people when they want to study. It's makes sense, but the first question up front, are you looking at studying in the next 3 months, or 3 to 6, or 6 to 12, or 12 and beyond? And that then really helps us plan the cadence of communications, the investment that we're putting in, the type of messages that we're sending, and then also when we hand over to our sales team as well to work with those prospects.
Ask and you shall receive, right?
Exactly.
So how do you, so it's one thing to come up with ideas but there's another thing to be able to prioritize what you do first. So how do you guys, ideate, and then how do you prioritize what you do in your CRO program when it comes to improving that on-site experience?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a healthy mix of data and gut for us, but of course the gut has to be backed up by the data, and we spend a lot of time. We're unashamed data nerds, as I imagine most people in the room are, to understand what's happening in that stage. Any of those things can pinpoint something that we explore further, and we very rarely have an issue with ideation between us and between Merkle. There's always 30 things on the page when we can choose your top 4. But what we always need to look at for any of the programs is what's the strategic fit and the timeliness, because it's over that 2-year period. We need to make sure we're meeting people at their customer journey. So essentially we build out a framework or a matrix of our audiences, making sure that all of our audiences are met, and then also the journey stages. They're the big ones that we pull through. Often there's ones that are really complex from a dev side. So we'll look at some shorter term wins or iterations of previous activity that we can get in place, so that at all stages we've still got CRO happening on the site while we're building out the more complicated ones.
All right, fantastic. And so how do you identify and resolve frustration using that quantitative and qualitative data?
One thing that we take really seriously is around the fact that higher education can change lives. And it's a massive decision, and it's an overwhelming decision. There are so many choices, it's hard to it's hard to compare. So anything that we can do that makes that decision and that understanding just a little bit easier for someone, and whether that means that they don't study with us, that's okay too. Anything that makes it just that little bit easier is something that we're really passionate about doing. I've mentioned we're relatively new to Content Square now. We haven't started earlier this year. So Adobe Analytics has been the main one for us to help identify pages that are drop-offs for us, pages that aren't performing based on their metrics, pages that are performing really well. We refer to those ones as some of our golden swords. If people visit that page, then they're more likely to go on to convert. So how do we get more people to go through that journey and bring that page into it? So not just looking at what's not working, but as well what is working. We also make sure that we look at any other research or data that's not designed to help our CRO program. We've research around ineligible applicants, for example. If we've got particular courses where there's a whole stack of people that are ineligible, what is it that would help them before they apply and then get rejected? What can we tell them up front that helps them make the right choice? Or research around people that are declining. What is it that's making them make that decision, and how can we front load the information that they're getting that helps them make the call before they even apply? So that's really how we look at identifying it, and then of course all the analysis through the various tools that we have.
Yeah, it would have been really nice when I was looking and searching, because that was my biggest struggle, is just working out what I was going to choose, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a last question, what would be your advice to teams that are looking to optimize their digital customer journeys?
Look, three different pieces here. So the first one, which is an easy mistake, and we've made it ourselves, is don't underestimate the impact that a little thing can have. It's not the piece that sells it internally. It's not the sexy stuff that your execs want to see, but it's the thing that makes a difference to your customers. And I was telling Simon this morning at breakfast, just yesterday I was filling out an online form and it didn't allow special characters in the name. I have an apostrophe in my surname. I couldn't complete the form and make the purchase because it had to be, not because I'm really stubborn and I'm like, no, it has to be right, but because it needed to match my ID. So that was an immediate drop-off that is an easy fix. So the little things make a difference to our customers. The second one is around the internal teams. Our structure is that we've got quite a lot of different teams that are facing our prospective students and current students. So making sure that you collaborate with all of the customer-focused teams. And the tech often seems to sit within teams rather than it being understood more broadly. So working with the audiences to see how can we help them understand how it helps our customers, but it also helps them. And then keeping them up to date rather than just the every 3-month check-in when we kind of need something. But this is what the work that you're doing helps deliver for our customers and for the end result for the business as well. And then the third one is around making sure that we're still connecting that offline and online so that while we often look at it in silos, our customer never sees it as a silo, whatever touch point they have. Obviously, it has to sit in with the brand and it has to be really consistent for where they're at.
Yeah. I know it's a buzzword, but the democratization of data, it's important, right?
Yeah,
People need
absolutely.
data to make decisions about what they do. Being able to have that handy so they can make their decisions and make data-driven decisions is really key, right?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
All right. Well, look, thank you so much for coming out here and taking the time to have this beachside chat with the beach.
Sand in the shoes.
All right. Thanks,
Lovely to
guys.
be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Great. Thank you so much, Simon and Kathy, for this. All right, so we're going to take a quick beach break, a few things before we all scatter off. Again, our partner stands are here, so do take the time to have a little chat to them to find out a little bit more about what they all do. We do have DJ Lockie Lockdown, who'll be pumping out some sick beats throughout the teas and coffees. There are going to be more refreshments, still some breakfast and food. For online, please don't go away, just put yourselves on mute, and we'll be back at 11:10 Australian time. And a quick note as well for those that are online and in the audience, we will be sharing the presentations with you post-event. So don't feel you have to take loads of notes and pictures of some of the slides. So we'll be back at 10 past, ignore this. But yeah, have a great break and we'll see you in 20 minutes.
You better believe it. Free vet advice whenever you need it. Pet Circle. Pet better.
This is you ending fire, and we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, calling out, Father, oh, stand by and we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside. High.
queira ou não queira. Prova do campo e o nó da madeira, carregar a candeia e matida pereira. E mais madeira e venda, tombo da ribanceira, e mistério profundo, e o queira ou não queira. E o mistério profundo, e o queira ou não queira.
Christine.
So for the next, don't worry about Lola.
Okay, and Christine's fine.
Yeah, so she knows that.
Okay.
It's just you. So you just focus on that. This is for the next presentation.
Okay, sweet. Okay. Thank you. All right. All right, everybody. Testing, testing. Welcome back for the second chapter of the DX Beach Club. And thank you all of those online that have patiently waited for the second half of proceedings. So before I invite our next panelist up, Christine, who's the e-commerce director at L'Oreal, I want to share her fun facts. And Christine's fun fact is she actually married her tattoo artist. Which I love that. So please put your hands together and a warm welcome for Christine.
Everybody's wondering, where are her tattoos? Let me just get myself a timer here. Get a sip of water. All right. I'm at the tail end of a flu, so not contagious anymore, but still a bit of a cough here, so sorry about that. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here in person. So I'm here to share a bit of our experience here at L'Oreal in terms of how do we use conversion rate optimization to power the consumer experience. So a bit of an intro, how do we use experimentation in our strategy? What is our approach? A few A/B testing successes and failures. We do have a few of those as well. And some of the key takeaways learners that from our side. So what you might not know is that the L'Oreal Group actually represents 32 brands here in Australia. So we are divided, or rather grouped in 4 different divisions based on the brand groupings. And I am part of the corporate division. So the corporate division is really there to be a center of excellence around e-commerce, media, CRM, and CMI. The brands that you see that have a little star are the ones that have a direct-to-consumer website. Everybody else goes directly with retailers or pure players. At L'Oreal, so those 32 brands form the group, and our mission is to create the beauty that moves the world. So we really focus on 4 key things, which are innovation, inclusivity, generosity, and sustainability is one of our core pillars. A little bit about me. I joined L'Oreal just over 8 months ago now, and I work for across indirect, direct e-commerce, as well as our B2B business. And I also head up the e-commerce acceleration program, which is a fancy way of saying it's our upskilling program to make sure that everybody in the business has the right capabilities to meet our target of meeting a lofty goal of 50% of our business being driven by online in a certain number of years. So my team have a bit of an eclectic team, but essentially we serve so many parts of the business, but essentially I have one person who heads up essentially all of the tech stack, right? So making sure that we have the right platforms, the right partners, making sure that everything is on track for that. We also have e-merchandisers to support with the merchandising of our site and the personalization. I have a person heading up as well the e-commerce acceleration program, so working with all of our brands on pilot programs for upskilling purposes. A B2B manager, and I also have a person who looks after our digital services. So that includes, for example, the virtual try-ons that we have on both our websites, but also on our retailer websites. Choosing the right shade of lipstick online can be a bit tricky. So being able to really use a selfie and find the right shade is quite critical for the conversion. So this is a bit about us. So I'm going to now talk a bit about, what's the role of experimentation in our strategy? And for us, it's really 3 big things. Sounds a bit cliche, but it does start with the consumer, right? Without people, really, nothing really matters with what we do. If they don't perceive value, there is no revenue to speak of, really. They will just choose to go somewhere else. So really for us, it's important to take our experience from good and get it to a great level, focusing on the person. It also allows us to have data-powered enhancements. So for us, data is actually two parts. So we use it to guide what we should be doing next, but also those experimentations feed back into the broader business so that we do make informed decisions, which then link to profitability. We are not a nonprofit. So for us, it is important that we make the right decisions to be able to drive the revenue for each and one of our brands. And that obviously requires a good amount of insights to guide those decisions. So in terms of a few numbers, we have been working with AB Tasty for about 2 years now. They've been our partner for anything AB testing and CRO. We've done over 200 campaigns with them last year and plan to do much more this year as well as we ramp up our CRO strategy. And just to give you an example of the uplift that we can see is that if I take one of our top brands, in a single quarter, there was a 350,000 incremental uplift from A/B testing. So there really is value in testing, measuring, and really focusing on the right areas. So our approach, how do we use it? Essentially, we have, like I mentioned, you have the 8 brands here that operate a direct-to-consumer website. Each brand has an e-commerce manager, and they are completely empowered to create their CRO roadmap with the support of my team so we can guide best practice and also make sure there's shared learnings. They work closely with an agency partner like AB Tasty, to guide the strategy. But the idea is really that we have a hybrid model where everybody gets to put together their roadmap and then we share those learnings. So we have a 3-step process to actually get to that famous roadmap. So I'm going to walk you through each one of those steps. So the first one sounds obvious, but we do start with our clear objectives. So each brand obviously has its own DNA, has its own set of functionalities. So while we do have a set of core metrics that we want to optimize towards, so we have targets obviously for conversion rate, bounce rate, etc. And based on the maturity of the brand, those KPIs do go up. So if you have just launched or within 6 months, obviously we don't expect you to have a 5% conversion rate from the bat. But then if you're a long haul and you've been doing this for a while, the expectations are much higher. So we start with those North Star metrics. And then also based on the brands, we have a set of micro conversions. So if I think of a brand like La Roche-Posay, who has a spot scan tool on the website, so you can have a skin diagnostic, there is a micro conversion around the usage of spot scan and the conversions around that. If we have a loyalty program like Kiehl's and Lancôme, for example, we do have KPIs around that. So it does start with what are we trying to achieve as a brand? What does great look like and what is that metric to get us there? Then we also do a robust training on analytics for our team so that we do want our people to be comfortable going in, self-serving, finding the right data, and then also understanding what it means and what we need to do to change it. So robust training. And then off that training, we're very fortunate at L'Oréal to have a fantastic CDO in one of our divisions who has a data background, and he serves as our mentor, if you wish. So when we have all of our e-com managers in a room doing workshop style, a deep dive, he's there to walk the room and then support people as they go. So we actually do it together. Everybody, like 2-hour workshop, you sit in, you dig through your website, and if you're stuck, you can get support from the mentor. So we do have information coming out of that. And then we also use our consumer insights. We have an amazing CMI team who has an exclusive panel of shoppers so that we can tap into for feedback. But we also have what we call EBAs or e-beauty advisors. So these help us bridge the gap between in-store and online. And what these BAs do is that it's kind of like live chat, right? But these are actually either people with skin expertise or makeup expertise or hair expertise, and they will guide the person in choosing the right product based on what they look for. And we found that there was a tremendous amount of insight coming out of these live chats where people got stuck, couldn't find what they were looking for. They had so many questions. And it was so rich so that we actually combine those two sources, which is essentially the GA, so what do we see from a behavior point of view on our websites, but also the insights from our consumers. We have a workshop, and then we kind of have an idea, we do have an idea of what we want to achieve. And then what we do is we work with our agency partner and we brief them. Here's my brand, here's what I want to achieve, here's what I found, here's what consumers are telling me. Let's work together on what are the right experimentations to do for the next 6 months. So we have, very more concrete for the next 3, but then kind of a bit of blue sky as well for the next 6 months. And then this happens in a co-creation workshop. So once we've briefed our agency, what they do is they come back with test recommendations, right? So based on what they see, and we're lucky because AB Tasty also works with L'Oréal France, and our France counterpart has a tremendous, I'm quite jealous to be transparent. They have a much bigger team. They have a CRO manager in-house. So we're able to also get learnings out of what's working well with France. And the reality is that the behavior is quite similar, we're finding, even if they have a bit more maturity. We know what's coming in the next couple of months and years. So this workshops allows us to have, what are we doing by brand for the next 6 months, but then also realizing that we need to be agile. It can't be a fixed roadmap. So every week, our e-commerce managers still go into GA, still look at what's going on, are we on track? And then we do allow for, obviously, adjustments to the roadmap. So did I notice something? Did my bounce rate go up for a reason I don't know yet, right? So it does allow some flexibility in how we do that roadmap. Then we also have a shared learning. So while we do have each commerce manager fully empowered, the idea is that we do want to share what we're doing, right? A test that has been done on Yves Saint Laurent, there's probably some learnings that Armani Beauty would like to tap into as well. So we make sure that we have everybody in a room on a monthly basis to really talk about what are the campaigns that we have run, what has worked, what has not worked. And it also allows people to ask questions and say, hey, this test I actually want to try it for my own brand. And then we start looking at how do we need to adapt it. To steal my own thunder, one of the key learnings for us was that you can't just take a test, even if it's 2 luxe brands, something on Armani cannot be replicated 100% on Yves Saint Laurent with the exact same results. It's just not the same. So we still do need to tweak and adapt for the brand DNA and for the UX of the website. We also have a partner called Dealdify who works with our UK team. So we also get some great insights from the UK, who is kind of our North Star market, to be transparent. Really brief example of a what does that look like? It's not fancy. It's just like an Excel spreadsheet that we use to prioritize the test. We do make sure that it starts with what did we notice? What's the metric that we looked at, or that the insight that we want to use? What's our hypothesis? What's the device as well? So while most of our traffic is obviously on mobile, we still do some tests on desktop. It's still like 35% of traffic. So we still want to optimize for 1 in 3 people. And then we have an interesting session of prioritization in the sense that we have 8 brands, yet we have 1 agency partner and 1 budget. So you can imagine everybody kind of fights a bit for who's going to have the most amount of campaigns, but we always play fair, no worries. So I'm going to go into a few... I didn't put my timer on, that's not convenient. Hope I'm okay on time. A few examples of A/B tests or campaigns that we've run. So while this one may seem ridiculously basic, one of the key things for us is we realized, yes, we can do really big, shiny, cool things at L'Oréal. We can actually do that, but sometimes we have to just go back to the basics and say, hang on, did we get the foundation right? Is there some low-hanging fruit still in terms of fundamentals that we should be implementing? And this, to me, was one of those moments. So it came also from our brilliant research team, and they had run a survey to say that in beauty, one of the top 2 drivers for shopping online was free and fast delivery. And yet, when you went on our website, on the Armani website in this case, in the cart, nowhere did we talk about delivery for you. You had it kind of at the top, but if you go too fast, you don't notice it. And so it came from that insight that we knew it was really important, and yet we found it was missing in one of the key pages. But also we looked at our target checkout completion was not where it needed to be. So we worked with A/B testing, and we said, okay, what if we just tested a very simple banner and say, will that impact? Pretty sure you imagine, yes, the impact was positive. Funny enough, this same concept failed massively on desktop. We actually lost revenue. So fun fact that you really do need to adapt for the device, and we always start mobile first in most of the cases and then roll out to desktop, which wasn't always an easy sell, surprisingly. I think we're so used to, when we're at our desk, to work on desktop, but yet in our lives, we're on our phone all the time, right? So it's making sure that we do prioritize anything that's on mobile. So we saw a 6% conversion rate increase just by adding that you had free delivery with any purchase. So pretty simple one. Another one is actually a phase 2 test. So this is just to show that sometimes we do a test, yay, we get learnings, but then we want to take it a step further because we only test one thing at a time to make sure that it's against, we get the right learnings. So in this case, lead generation is also one of our core metrics. So we wanted to make sure that we had the best way of doing that. So obviously test 1 was, hey, if we put a pop-in to tell visitors that they get a discount on their first purchase. Obviously, that did increase our signups. But then we thought, okay, pop-ins can be maybe a bit intrusive. Let's test if we can get better performance out of this if we do it with a sticky banner. So what we did is, so this was, like I mentioned, kind of phase 2 of the test. So just any idea which test performed best, A or B? So let's do a raise of hands who thinks A performed better? Who think B performed better? You are right. It actually performed 4 times better than this intrusive pop-in that was after 3 seconds. Another one that, again, I appreciate the irony of me talking about mobile and desktop, and I show you a desktop example, but we still do some tests on desktop. This, I think, is one of my favorite ones. So essentially, one of the things that we noticed was our cart abandonment rate was, again, not where we wanted it to be. Excuse me. And one of the hypotheses is that if we remind people that they have items in their cart while they're still browsing, while they're still online doing stuff, it might be more effective than that cart abandonment EDM that you would typically get, because emails can maybe sometimes get lost in the shuffle. So the idea was, let's test this tab. So what happens is that if a user had at least one item in their cart, and then they open another tab and start doing something else, after 10 seconds, that tab will have a red dot, and then the page title will start toggling between you have items left in your cart and the basic Kiehl's website page title. There was animations for, and sorry, you see the results already, so there's actually no like big punchline, you already see it there. It's a video of working in PowerPoint and shifting to Google Slides. But yeah, really decent conversion rate increase. So quite happy with that one. And then that was a kind of a pretty basic one that we could test. So we then rolled it out to Lancôme, and we will be rolling it out to our other brands as well now that we've completed our migration to our new platform, which is a different talk. Last example for me today, our North Star, again, conversion rate. I think this is really important. Our partners had once flipped the data, which I found really interesting. And instead of saying, oh, we have a 3% conversion rate, they were saying, 97% of your people don't buy. It's like, oh, that's actually a bit of an interesting way of looking at it, isn't it? So the idea was that if we use a bit more personalization, if we are able to show people what they've purchased in the past, it will increase their conversion, knowing that, there is a really big, messy middle. People won't necessarily arrive on your site, convert. That would be lovely, don't get me wrong, but that's just not how people shop. So knowing that they will eventually come back, at a point in time. We wanted to make it even more relevant for them when they did come back. So what we did is we dynamically scraped the last 3 products that they viewed on site. So when they did come back, they would see those three products with kind of, are you back for these items type of message. Obviously, we excluded those who had transacted in the meantime or on that last visit, so that it did remain relevant. Really good conversion rate increase as well. Those are just a few examples of things that we've done very recently. And what's next for us, something I'm really excited about actually, is that we are going to do a cross-brand mystery shopper. So what this means is that each e-commerce manager is day in, day out in their brand, on their website. They know it in and out. But if you put that same person, so if I put, my Lancôme e-commerce manager and I say, hey, go on Kerastase and do a few journeys, like go buy a shampoo, go find what's the right conditioner for you, what will you notice? So the idea was that we actually swap brands and everybody's going to go and, do a few, like have, missions or actions to complete. And the idea is that in a user's shoe, in a consumer's shoe, in a brand I don't normally look at hours every single day, what am I going to notice as a user? Quite simply, right? Because yes, GA will give us data, but there is something to be said about friction that you experience as a consumer as you go and you try to find things. So that will also help us feed back into the roadmap. And interestingly is that when I wanted to put this in the very initial process, our lovingly competitive team was like, no, wait, I know what I need to fix. Hang on, I don't want anybody to go just yet. So that was actually quite a good way for them to also accelerate certain things that we knew we had to address. So we'll be kicking this off in the next couple of weeks. So super excited to have that feedback into our insights and our roadmap. That being said, we will be conducting as well some recorded sessions, so roughly 8 sessions per brand to see, where do people stumble? Where are they looping? What's going on? What are they not finding? What's happening in terms of behaviors? And that will again feedback. And two of our big focuses really is around more that customization of the landing page. So can we get better at getting people to the right page? And are we showing them the right product? Really simple example is that if I think of Armani Beauty, we have an amazing fragrance called C, but it actually comes in 4 different variations. You have an eau de parfum, eau de toilette, there's the intense version. But if you're just looking for the C perfume and I land you to one specific PDP, that might not be the one for you. So we're going to start experimenting with creating a C landing page where you can see the array of the different franchise and see, are we guiding the people with the right way, and then having an EBA to help you find the right fragrance based on the tones that you're looking for. So really quick example of where we want to focus. And also segmenting our audiences. So really having in our roadmap more around, who's an existing consumer, who's a tier 3 loyalty member, who is new to our site, and having a bit more sophistication in our tests based on audiences. A few takeaways for us is really cultivating. I think it's you've heard it many times today from the great speakers before me, but having that insights-led mindset is really important. I'll very candidly admit it was hard for me. I had always been a gut person, and since joining L'Oréal, it is so strong in the company culture that I actually saw tremendous improvement in my decision making. While I'll still use my gut, but I will back it up with data, right? I'm not perfect. So always use the data to, confirm your hunch. That's really important. So being really rigorous on what is it that we look for, and also going beyond GA, using consumer data that we do have. Making it your own. So like I mentioned quickly, it's not because we did this campaign with this brand on mobile that it can be replicated exactly to another brand. Brands have different DNA, like some things, yes, don't get me wrong, but other things you really do need to test, you need to adapt. Is the UX on the brand sites will be different, so we do need to make sure that there is that adaptation that is happening. And also based on the device, it obviously won't be the same test on mobile and desktop, but make sure that it is customized for that. And then empowering and prioritizing. So first, it's making sure that our teams really do have the power to build a roadmap and say, this is the strategy for my brand. This is where I believe we should be testing. These are my KPIs and where I believe I should take it. Give the power to your teams, make sure that they're guided. And this is where me and my team come in place to kind of help them look at things also in a different light and make sure that we do have this shared learnings across our divisions and across our brands. And being a bit ruthless in prioritization in the sense that empowering means that people also have a lot of ideas, a lot of things that we want to do, but we also need to make sure that, if we have a set amount of campaigns that we choose to run, because we also have, while we have big teams, we also have a lot of things that we need to get done. So making sure that between all the brands, we are focusing on those big bets. Going back to those North Star metrics, those micro conversions, what are we trying to achieve? And are those campaigns aligned to that? And that's what I had for you today. I feel like I've sped through that, but I'll be here if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. I can't wait. There's lots to love in that. I can't wait to see the aftermath of the cross-team mystery shopping, because that's going to certainly spark a few conversations and debates. Awesome. All right, so I'd love to invite for our poolside panel discussion, Mitt, Head of Product at Cash Rewards, Stefan, Digital Optimization Specialist at Coles, and Jess, who's the Group Manager of Digital Growth and Performance, to come and join me on stage, please. A warm welcome. So whilst they're grabbing their Aperols, Mitt, if you could distribute the mics, that'd be fantastic. I will go through their fun facts. So Mitt's fun fact is he actually once had a shot of snake's blood with a snake's beating heart in the shot, which sounds pretty gross. Stefan, although he works for Coles, he's actually, and I love this, an Aldi middle lane tragic. And he once went out to buy some essential, Aldi goodness and ended up coming home with a 3D printer, which I absolutely love. Just being sucked into that Aldi middle aisle. And Jess, in a previous life, was a clown at kids' parties, which I absolutely love. Awesome. Oh, and something I should note as well, for those online, please do take a scan of the Slido. So we want this to be interactive. Those in the audience, I think there's a QR code on the seat in front of you, so do whip out your phones, and we'll try and get through as many questions as we can. And again, a chance, those online, please do scan this QR code, and if maybe one of the team can put that code in the chat, just in case anyone is slightly too slow. All right, let's start. So this panel is all around getting the fundamentals right in the digital experience. So first off, I think it's really important that we understand what each of the panelists define as the digital experience. So how do you define the digital experience and how do you measure it? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, I can kick us off. So digital experience for me especially is not just online, it's also offline. So it's every interaction a consumer has with your brand. And so as an example, it could be a Facebook advert leading up to a transaction on your web store, and then taking it offline, click and collect. So collecting your parcel with a QR code, or even returning your parcel, your post office, and then scanning your QR code. So I think it's both online and offline. Ways which we measure really depends on what you're trying to achieve through your digital experience. So whether it's engagement metrics, such as impressions or number of sessions over a given period, right through to funnel metrics, so bounce, exit, or even ultimately conversion.
Yeah, is this thing on? I totally agree. It does start off-site, and everyone's got different jobs to be done as part of that digital experience. And how do you kind of align the way that you talk about what we're offering as a brand, and how you get to that jobs to be done, I think is is very important and a hurdle, I think, in terms of ensuring that that is continued throughout. You know, we measure it in different ways in terms of we get lots of customer feedback where we can to just see how people are interacting and getting through, you know, the different jobs, whether that be to buy health insurance for us or to kind of go in and use your health insurance product.
I think for us, it really is about, you know, how do you replicate that core service or value proposition that you provide to your customers in an offline channel. So, you know, if you think about Coles as being a grocery store, the service we're providing is actually people being able to get their fundamentals of food and sustenance and nourishment. And they're used to doing that in a hunter-gatherer method, even though they're not farming themselves anymore necessarily, but they're going into a store and they're hunting and they're gathering. So how do we replicate that in a digital way that's meaningful, that replicates it while adding value to that experience, but also, you know, treating it as a service that makes their life easier. And I think that's how we would definitely approach thinking about our digital experience.
And I know we've touched upon it, but what do you see as the essential foundations for delivering, you know, an outstanding digital experience?
I think everybody's covered this off really, really well. It's talking to your users, your end users. How do they want to interact with your products or services, and what are they doing? And that kind of validates, you know, the changes that you can iterate and learn upon to kind of provide them with an easier digital experience for them getting to where they need to go. So I think that analytics, user behavior tools, and, you know, just simple user testing and user research is very fundamental to building out, you know, what do people actually want when they're coming to our site, and importantly, how do they want to feel when they're interacting with you about, you know, your products or services.
Yeah, look, just to add on to that, I think everyone in this room would probably answer this question the same way, yeah, because we're digital native people. A really solid understanding of the intrinsic motivators for our customers. You know, what at the core level, what are they trying to accomplish? Why is it important to them? And then ensuring that translates to the touch points in the digital experience. You know, so if someone's time poor, their intrinsic motive is to get in and get out quickly and efficiently. So how do we replicate that in an online experience? Simple things like that.
Just to add to that, I think it's really, if we're talking foundations of digital experience, are you nailing the basics of what your consumers expect when they land on your website or your mobile app? Because if you're not doing that well, you're likely to lose that customer. Because I'm pretty sure there are hundreds of competitors that do exactly what you do. Given the digital boom, there are so many more competitors out there. And so if you're not doing it well, someone else will. And so you'll lose that customer. Yeah, you can bring them back, but that will be a heavy or a costly reactivation. So I think it's essential you get the foundations right. Forget the big fancy features. Do the basics right.
I was going to say, you know, don't make your site so much different to other sites so that when people are coming on board, they're like, oh, this is different. It's a point of friction. So, like, let's remove all those friction points and just make things easy to do.
Absolutely.
Right. And do you have a framework or methodology for ensuring your online customers have the great experience? And what are some of the more important KPIs that you measure on when it comes to that, assessing how good a job you and your teams are doing at measuring that digital experience?
I think really just touching back on nailing the basics. I wouldn't call it a framework, or it's a framework that I've kind of pulled together myself. It's a 3-tiered approach. You nail the basics, get that right. So as an example, someone wants to come onto your website, they want to buy a pair of trainers or a shirt. Can they pick their size and check out? Yep, you've nailed the basics. How do you then take it up a notch and delight the customer along that journey? So how do you try and remove cognitive load on the user? And so by this, I mean, how do you remove the points where the user actually stops and thinks about, actually, hold on, what sizes should I get? Should I get a 6, an 8, and a 10 because I don't know what's going to fit? How do you delight the user or customer in that experience? So are you going to introduce a size calculator or show a diagram or some sort of visual to say it runs large or it runs small? What are you going to do to delight that customer and kind of remove the cognitive load and glide them through your funnel? And then right at the top is, right, there are loads of people doing size calculators. How do you change it up? How do you differentiate yourselves to your competitors? So I've seen a few examples of this, but say augmented reality, how do you try on that garment in the leisure of your own apartment? So it's usually a 3-tiered approach. It's not linear. There'll be different parts of your web experience or your digital experience that are going through different phases of those 3 tiers. So that's a kind of framework that I use and have used previously.
Yeah, I want to just really quickly touch on what Christine said about kind of start simple. Like, I think baseline methodology for digital experience is like just start with making something, you know, functional, usable, and get that right. Nail that. Identify what are all the key levers that affect performance and success, and do that for 6 months. Yeah. And get your ducks in a row. And that could be a strong website, a strong CMS. It could just be simply spending 6 months just on audience and reach. Yeah. And then after that, once you've done that, then the next step is let's make it memorable. Let's make it, you know, favorable, and make it something that people actually enjoy using and they'll tell their friends about and become a brand advocate. And I think just a simple kind of 2-phase methodology, if no one's thinking about it already, is probably the best place to start. It's like, let's just get the baseline humming, because you can't measure what you don't know. So let's establish a really strong baseline.
And a question that I think I would love to find out, you know, there's no shortage of possible tests, of possible iterations that you can do on the site. You know, we saw that Christine showed the CRO roadmap, and I'm sure it's never a case where that's, like we don't really have much to do. There's always things that can be done. How on earth do you prioritize where to focus when there's 101 things you can do? How do you know where to focus your attention?
I can take that. So Cashrewards as a business is I guess built on 2 North Star metrics. Now they translate into a business strategy, which translate into a set of OKRs, which translate into a product strategy. We've got 8 squads, product squads, and they all have missions. They're all mission-based squads with goals and outcomes they need to achieve. So they're empowered teams, which we've heard of quite a lot today. So I'm glad it's a recurring theme. But they're empowered teams, and we're not giving them solutions to deliver. We're giving them outcomes or problems that they need to deliver outcomes for. And so through data, they're really getting the insights and finding the problem spaces and the opportunities that they need to work on. So that's kind of the first take on how we align and focus our efforts. And then to supplement that, we've introduced a prioritization framework. It's very bespoke to Cashrewards, because some of the more generic ones out there don't take into consideration the intricacies of each and every business. And so the product squads really use that as a first port of call in terms of how they sequence the delivery of their product initiatives. What that doesn't take into consideration are things like dependencies. And so dependencies or curveballs or regulation changes or marketing events that they need to support, they all come in ad hoc and are dealt with on an ad hoc basis. But we do have a prioritization that is a first port of call.
Yeah, I think it's a very good call with the prioritization frameworks. There are so many out there, and making sure that that's aligned with how you do business and making it your own is so important. We have gone through so many different versions of this at NIB. We've got lots of different departments that we're kind of servicing, I guess, at the moment. How do you get them to go up against each other? And I guess it does lead back to, you know, that strategic view of what you're trying to achieve as a business, but making sure that you do have that value lens as to what that is the desired outcome is for that. Often it's we've kind of gone through a process of making sure that we get that validation to support our experiments and our changes, just to ensure that we have something to go forward with into the prioritization framework, and that previous experiments and research lead into the point system for why we would prioritize something, you know, just to make sure that we have thought about it in a holistic way before we move forward. But yeah, it's a very complicated area, the whole prioritization of what we work on.
To kind of piggyback off what Jess just said about experimentation, feeding prioritization, I don't think, look, I'd love to say we're doing it now, but I want to start doing it more, is actually use experimentation to help the business prioritize what to do next quarter. And because there's two primary levels of prioritization. You've got the execution roadmap, which is kind of pie scoring or WizGIF or Moscow, whatever you're using to actually execute on your roadmap. But then how do you know what you're going to prioritize for the next 6 months? And using an experimentation function to go and validate simple baseline ideas.
Yeah,
and
that's been key for us as well.
And feed it back up the lines and say, hey, this is how much it drove revenue. This is how it impacted NPS. Speak to the metrics that matter to the C-suite, but say we did X, Y, and Z. We ran 5 tests, and this is why you should prioritize this initiative over the other. I think that's a really cool story and just great capability for the business.
Yeah, one of the key changes for us when we were starting in the experimentation journey was that we were feeding into the delivery teams, and testing before work was getting scheduled in with those, so making them be working on the right things. And there's a cost efficiency there to kind of making sure that our delivery teams are working on things that we have known value versus the business wants this.
Great. And I think leading on from that, we've talked a lot today, you know, about teams, and there's no optimal structure for, you know, how organizations structure their teams. And it does really vary from organization to organization. How have your companies organized the roles and responsibilities in particular within your digital teams? Is there a set structure? Does it work for you at the moment? Are there any areas you'd want to get to better optimize it? Like, how are your teams structured when it comes to addressing all of these issues we've mentioned?
So Cash Rewards is going through a bit of a transition. So we're moving or evolving towards a product-led organization and introducing modern product practices. And so with that, you can't do anything unless you also evolve your product squads. So moving away from just being teams that churn features or outputs to teams that are empowered to drive outcomes. And so also with that comes a change in mindset. So product and technology are not there to serve the business, they're there to serve the customer, but with working alongside the business and what works for the business. And so we're in that transition at the moment. So each of our product squads is cross-functional, bring to the table a lot of different skills and experiences, which I think are essential for empowered product teams. However, it's not that they go away and work in silos and drive solutions on their own. It's in collaboration with stakeholders. So I think it's also moving away from a very old school word or phrase, it's stakeholder management, to stakeholder collaboration. So that's a journey we're on at the moment. I think with empowered product teams, there's 3 things that are really crucial. Ownership, so make sure they have end-to-end ownership of experiences, platforms, services, so they have the ability to deliver without creating dependencies between other squads. Second is really autonomy, so give them problems to solve, not the solutions. And then the third one is alignment. And so that really comes from the structures we've got set up in terms of our OKRs, our squads, their missions, their goals, and their outcomes. And there's constant direction, and we're not moving on different tangents. So that's how we're set up. We're on a journey. We're not quite there. I'm sure we'll go through many optimizations before we're happy.
Yeah, we've got kind of a different setup in that regard. The digital team owns the performance of our digital channels, but we also house, I guess, 4 centres of excellence or capabilities that enable the business to deliver. So we kind of sit between this marketing and business need and the technology available, and we provide capabilities like we've got the optimization and personalization, content and strategy, data science, and marketing auto. Almost got to blank there, sorry Bonnie. But yeah, so we kind of enable the business through our digital team, and we kind of like the enablers, I suppose, versus having kind of the product mindset sitting directly within our team. We kind of work with multiple partners and, like you said, collaborate. We kind of bring a lot of the ideas within different departments like marketing and corporate, and kind of be like, well, how can we actually deliver this through the tools and technology that we have available to us?
And we've spoken a lot here about, trying to foster that data and analytics culture at the company. Albert touched upon that in his presentation in terms of championing wins. And a great example that I heard was there was a company that every month they celebrated the failures. So they got everybody in the business, they put on beers and put on pizza, and they get the team to showcase all of the failures, so all of the tests, the iterations that weren't successful, just to try and change that mindset of like, oh, we always have to be, getting a winning test, everything has to be, all optimal, just to try and encourage that culture. So how do you in practice, what do you do in terms of your teams to both facilitate this sort of data-driven culture, but also importantly involve the execs? Often, and for many brands that we speak to, it's the practitioners and the heads of the department are like, okay, this is great, this is absolutely what we need, but then it's selling it into the CIOs, the CFOs. So two-pronged question, but what are you doing currently to foster that culture? And then also, how would you sell in, whether it's budget for teams or technologies or getting more buy-in? How do you sell that into execs?
It's a big question, and there's many answers, and there's lots of layers to it. And those are nice, all big buzzwords as well. But I think, speaking really practically, I think it's really handy if a business is talking about transformational change, and they're wanting to be data-led as an organization. I think it's really handy for a business to actually have a project that backs that motivation. So, Coles is always undertaking big transformation projects, and we have one in the pipeline at the moment that is forcing everyone that works on it to be exceptionally data-led. So I think having something that pushes people every day to engage with insights, whether it's analytical or customer experience insights, verbatims, in-store, kind of feedback, but something that centralizes all that data into one project that everyone gets around is super important. If you don't have that, it probably will fall over. But then after that, I think what's even more handy is if you have a tangible way to spread that information and give access to people in the company to utilize that data. An example being, so everyone would have their rituals, especially if you're in an agile kind of space. You've got your sprint showcases where you talk about results. You've got weekly reporting, quarterly reporting. You'd have monthly showcases where everyone will go in and they'll talk about their failures, talk about their wins. Those are fantastic. But if there isn't a tangible way for people to access that and understand the data, then it falls over. And so one of the things that we have that was actually spearheaded by 2 individuals in the business, they simply used Miro as the centralization point, where we had a really great insights analyst who knew the ins and outs of the site and how to get around Adobe Analytics. Belle is amazing. She's not with Coles, she's gone somewhere else, but she's amazing. She partnered with another one of our really talented design researchers, and she would then outlay all the reports that she pulled together. And then our design researcher would come in and overlay all of the qual insights. And then there was this one centralized repository for everyone to access and go to and see, okay, this is what we learned the last week. This is how we're making decisions for the next part of the experience. And it kind of became this kind of thing within the business, like, okay, just go to this Miro board. And I think that is a really practical way to bring everyone along on the journey and build a culture, because someone has something tangible to access every day.
I absolutely love that. That sounds so good. I'm like, yes, I want to do that. And yeah, I think making sure that people can access that, but I guess the consistency of you getting out there and saying kind of the value that's coming through your program of work gives you freedom. And that's something that we've earned at NAB through consistent communication of the value of the program, what we're doing and why. It has given us freedom for us to try different things, try different tools, try different experiences, and people just have that inherent trust that, you know, we're doing it based on facts. Are we? No. Yeah. I think it's very important to kind of have that consistent communication of the value that the
There's just something really elemental about pictures and numbers next to it, yeah? Like, and Content Square like reinforces that. You've got your experience and it's overlaid with numbers. Just having a tool, and it may not be Miro, it might be something else, but just having something that puts why and what together in a really simple way, it can move mountains. But it makes a difference.
And people want to work with you. I think what I've found is it's drawn more people throughout the organisation to want to work in this way and be able to use things like experimentation and some of the behavioural tools that we use in the research to be able to drive change in their areas of focus. It's been quite a good thing.
All right, well, look, we're sadly out of time. I feel like we could go on for an hour or 2 hours, and there's a ton more questions that, apologies, I didn't get to cover. What I would say is please do grab the panelists for a drink after to answer the questions, and I'm sure we'll work out some sort of forum where we can get all of the remaining questions and maybe record a vlog just to answer the rest of them. Last question, possibly the most important question. How does the Aperol taste?
Tasty.
So good.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Fantastic.
So that's a ringing endorsement.
Cheers.
Please put your hands together for the panelists. Thanks so much. Okay, so we are here for the final session of the day. Again, for those of you online, we're looking at finishing at roughly 22, so just 10 minutes out of time, but it's worth the wait and worth staying on for. So I would love to introduce Ben, who's the GM of Digital Systems and Accessibility at Telstra, and Matt Christie, our Head of UX UI Design. So please, a warm welcome for Ben and Matt. I don't know if you want to grab yourself a mic. Okay, so in terms of fun facts, Ben was once in the Guinness Book of Records for drinking tequila. So definitely later, Ben. We're going to see if we can beat that world record. And Matt's fun fact is he rode a motorbike from the north to the south of Vietnam. So please, Matt, Ben, take the stage.
Hello, hello. Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm Matt, UX UI Design Strategist here at Content Square. In the interest of accessibility today, I'm going to do an inclusive introduction, and then Ben's going to follow. And this is for any viewers at home or anyone in the audience who has a visual impairment. I'm Matt. I am white, and I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt, black trousers. And as Matt introduced me this morning, I'm tall, I've got bleach blonde hair, and despite having tattoos, I'm not Christine's husband. Okay. All right. And also less handsome and less funny as well. Okay. And also, I'm joined here today by one of, if not my favorite, accessibility experts in the field, Ben.
Hello, everyone. Ben Pintos Oliver. I am shorter than this lovely chap right here. I've got dark hair, brown eyes, olive skin, and I am wearing a navy blue shirt with divers on them.
Very nice. Divers. All right. So we have a Q&A after the next couple of sessions that we've got going on. So if you have any questions, please get in the Slido, ask away. We've already got some pre-prepared questions as well, which cover all bases, but please, this is your chance to speak with Ben and I, so please go ahead and ask as many questions as you like. All right, this topic is absolutely huge. We don't have enough time today, sadly, You can talk to us after as well. But yeah, we just want to kind of cover the core fundamentals of accessibility. And then we're going to actually dive into a live exercise as well. This live exercise is going to be very interesting for all of you. You're probably going to hate it, but that's the point. All right. So yeah, please let us know any feedback afterwards. All right. So why does accessibility matter? All right. If you don't design for accessibility, it's like saying to every fifth person who walks in your door, I don't really want your business. This quote is absolutely perfect. Would you agree, Ben? In terms of like encapsulating the importance of accessibility.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very natural. Very natural.
I set him up there. All right. So 1+ billion people in the world, crazy amount of people, have some type of impairment affecting their ability to read the web. Okay, so there's visual, motor, cognitive, and hearing. We can't touch on all of that today, but it's a lot. Okay, so 1 in 25 people have some form of visual impairment or are blind. 1 in 12 men are colorblind compared to 1 in 200 women. And 1 in 10 people have dyslexia, almost close to 1 billion affected. So it affects their ability to read the web. And then 1 in 11 people are 65 plus today, and that's going to drop down, well, increase to 1 in 60 by 2050. So most of us, and probably all of us in the audience, are going to be that age by then. Okay, crazy. And 80% of disabilities are invisible.
And I think that's a really important stat right there, is the cliche version of what we think a disability is usually something that's quite visual that you can see from a distance. But noting that 80% of those disabilities are unseen means that there are probably a lot of people in this room right now that might be living with a disability, but you're just not aware of it.
And with that, 70% of digital content is actually not accessible to them. And what do we mean by digital content? We obviously have our websites, we have our apps, we also have things like PDFs and stuff that can be read on the web. 80% of new sites, 2/3 of e-commerce websites, 70% of public service websites. This is hugely damning, and it's quite frankly disgusting that the majority of digital content is not actually accessible to many of these people out there. Touching on 1+ billion again, so about 15% of the global population, also comes money, okay? And first and foremost, it's not all about the money. I'm here today as an advocate to spread awareness, okay? That's the most important thing for me from a philanthropy point of view. But with that does come spending power. And we're looking at $6 trillion globally of this population, and also their family and friends as well. 80% of people with a disability have actually taken their business elsewhere, and they will do so. And in the live exercise you see today, I might be one of those users that might take my business elsewhere. And there's some laws across the world. I'm not going to go into detail. It's all laws and acts, and it's all very boring, but also very important. We've got in Canada, the Canadian Human Rights Act, USA, Title 3 of the ADA, Section 508, Europe, European Directive, and then Asia, Japan, and China have all got their kind of laws too. And then obviously here in Australia, we've got the Disability Discrimination Act too.
And I think just to also note, be very cognizant of what industry you're in as well, because each regulation will have its own version of that as well. Being from Telstra, in the telco space, we have one called the TCP code, and there are very, very explicit laws that are increasing in the amount of explicit nature around what you need to be doing before you actually release out into market. So it's really important to take the time, sit down with your legal teams and go through that together.
Okay, so just quickly to touch on what we're doing here at Content Square as well. So Content Square, we have our own kind of brand messaging. We want to give brands the power to make the digital world more human by focusing on digital accessibility as a priority. But then we also have our foundation too, where we're actually committed to building a more accessible internet. we are working to reduce barriers to online access and to make the digital world more accessible for everyone as well. So what do we do? As I mentioned before, we take a philanthropic approach. So we want to drive awareness. We want to drive advocacy. We want accessibility champions throughout the company, but not just throughout the company, but here as well in the audience today. And we want to kind of continue that. And then you go to your company, you spread it, and then it just becomes this beautiful movement where we're fighting. Product innovations, partnerships and grant making as well. Equal access to education, inclusive design, of course, and social responsibility too. Okay, so innovation for inclusion, digital accessibility best practices, that's one part of my role as a UX UI design strategist here at Content Square. Not only am I here to deliver best practice from a UX point of view, but also with accessibility too. Training on accessibility, this is incredibly important. I'm sure many people in the audience might be a little bit nervous when it comes to the topic of accessibility. It's overwhelming, it's scary, but it doesn't have to be like that. We can actually break it down into digestible chunks to make it easy to, learn and then become certified and become more of an expert moving forward. Supporting external projects, and then we're also developing an easy reading platform as well. Okay, so we're going to move to the live screen reader exercise now. Screen reader, also known as voiceover. It's going to drive you crazy for the next 10 minutes. And I'm actually going to put a timer on as well because it can get a little carried away. I did it in London. It ended up being like 20 minutes. Some audience, no, they didn't leave, but they might as well have. What is this? But that's the point. Also, I have some special glasses, all right? Beach Club / old school cinema glasses, okay, that make me visually impaired. I actually do have blurred vision, so when I wear these as well, I can't really see anything. So yeah, I'm gonna mimic being visually impaired. I'm gonna go through the Jetstar website, which you'll see in a second on the screen. And as I try to navigate, sorry about the glasses. As I navigate through this site, I'm gonna try and purchase a flight. And when I'm doing this, Ben is gonna add commentary and kind of tell you what is happening, good or bad. Okay, so I think we're having the Jetstar on the screen. There we go.
Let's start our journey.
All right, I'm just going to enable voiceover, and then I'll pop the glasses back on. I know you all want to see me in the glasses. All right. All right. So.
Voiceover on Chrome. Jetstar Airways, Australia vertical line Jetstar Google Chrome.
Don't worry, that's
Alice,
supposed to happen.
person 2, window. Menu, collapsed button, has keyboard focus, visited, link, image, Jetstar home, Chrome, has new, window. You are currently on a heading level 1.
That's read out to you when you're using a screen reader. So
mandatory
you've got
use
to
of
think
face
there's a
masks
lot
on all
going
flights.
and you need to be listening to every single one of those commands. So Matt, what are you going to try and do first?
All right, so I really simply just want to go to Melbourne because Sydney, man, I need to get out of here. I way prefer Melbourne. Okay, so I need to get to Melbourne, but I'm really struggling to see. So I'm going to try and navigate and listen out for something that enables me to
mandatory
do that
use of face masks on all flights.
And it's still mandatory to wear a face mask on all flights, all right?
Okay, so you're going to start tabbing through.
So I'm going to start tabbing through. Tabbing is just above like the caps lock on the keyboard. So I'm going to start tabbing through left to right.
Avatar sign-in button, group.
There we go. So
you
we
are
can
currently
see
on
in
a
the
button,
top
group.
right-hand
To click
corner,
this
it's actually
button,
jumped
press
the whole
Control,
navigation
Option,
over to the
space.
right-hand
Mandatory
side.
use of face masks on all flights.
And there's very good, very good. We need the masks. Okay, so what's happened here is when we're using a screen reader, it's all about linear format. So how do you ensure that you've got every single one of your navigations to be clicked on first? You need to be able to run through that. What you've seen
mandatory
here is
use
a
of
jump.
face masks on all flights.
There we go again. If you don't turn up with a mask after going through this experience. So we can see we've jumped straight into sign in. Let's keep going, keep tabbing
Help,
through.
collapsed button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, travel between Australia and New Zealand. New NZ traveller declaration required. Link, alert, link, manage booking, list 4 items.
Okay, we're going
You
through
are currently on a link.
navigation.
To click this link, press Control, Option, space. Mandatory use of face masks on all flights.
Okay,
Link.
let's keep going.
Flight status.
Okay,
Link.
we've got some linear
Check-in.
format here.
Link.
That's
Link.
good.
View deals. Main.
Okay, now we're down
You are
in
currently
the
on a link.
view sales
To click this
section.
link, press Control Option Space.
Okay.
Link.
Where do you
View
want to
deals.
keep going to, Matt?
You are currently on a
Don't know
link.
where I am.
To go to slide 1 button. Go to
So
slide
Matt's
2
obviously got
button.
very blurred vision
You
at
are
the
currently on a
moment. Those
button.
glasses
To
actually
previous button.
get quite
Next
a
button.
blur on it.
So
You
I'm
are currently on a
some sort of
button. To
carousel,
click this
right?
button, press Control Option Space.
seems
Previous button.
Previous button.
Next button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, return to menu pop-up collapsed
Okay.
button.
We've got
You are currently on a
modal
button.
popping up
To
now.
display
So
a
let's
list
just
of
pause there
options,
for a
press
second.
Control Option
When
Space.
modals pop up, that is a
Mandatory
new
use of
screen,
face masks on
essentially,
all
that's
flights.
popping up. A lot of times with modals, you'll see that the focus area, and you can see over here in the top corner, return trip, it's got a darker line that sits across that. That is called a focus state, and those lines need to have enough color contrast ratio or luminosity against the background and against whatever is there already. Because people with low vision are
Mandatory
also
use of
using the
face masks
same
on all
kind of
flights.
technology and the same visual reference for this as well. So you've got multiple things that you're trying to consider at the same time. And if you've got quite low vision and it's blurred, or you have something like glaucoma, it's really critical that that color contrast really stands out. So Matt, you're in the modal at the moment. Let's try and interact with that. So to interact, we
Mandatory
hit the
use
return
of
button.
face masks on all flights.
Masks, excellent. Okay.
Return trip.
We have a
Menu
drop
pop-up
down.
expanded button. You are currently on a button. To display a list of options, press Control Option
What is it? Is
Space.
it one way? Or are you
One
coming back to
way
Sydney?
button. List 2 items.
One way. Okay.
You are currently in a group. To exit this
Excellent.
group,
I'm
press
joking,
Control
by the way.
Option Shift up
Yeah.
arrow.
You're not going to be
One
very
way
popular
menu
after
pop-up
this.
collapse. One passenger menu
Okay,
pop-up
cool.
collapsed
So
button.
let's try and
You are currently on a
choose
bus from
where you're
Melbourne,
flying
Tullamarine, Mel. Menu pop-up
You're gonna fly
collapsed
from
button.
Melbourne to Melbourne?
You are currently on a bus from Melbourne, Tullamarine,
so
Mel. Edit
you're
text.
now in the
Adelaide,
form field.
ADL
You can
button.
either
Group list
choose
24
from
items.
a list.
You are Ballina Byron, BNK button. Busselton Margaret River, BQB, Canberra, CBR button. Group.
no.
Mandatory use of face cans, CNS
Canberra.
button. Busselton, Brisbane, Ballina Byron, Adelaide.
can
Menu
you see if
pop-up
you can
button.
start typing
Main.
in?
Ballina Byron, B.
Okay.
Adelaide from Melbourne, Tullamarine, Mel. Edit text.
That was a different voice.
Menu pop-up. Sydney, Australia. button.
Sydney, Australia. Okay, return. Yep, that was great. That's a good experience. Okay, moving to, so you've tabbed
You are
across.
currently on a mandatory use of face mask to wear. Mel.
Face masks again. That's. I think we're on a count of 12 there.
Menu pop-up.
Melbourne.
Which one am I going?
Which
was the best one?
Tullamarine.
Tullamarine? Definitely tell. Yep.
Definitely tell her.
Australia button. Group.
Okay, you're in.
You are currently
Now we can't see because of the voiceover text there.
Control option, shift
But that's
up
fine
arrow.
because we're not
Mandatory
supposed to be
use of
looking.
face to Melbourne,
What's the
Tullamarine.
next option?
Departing when? Menu
Dead.
pop-up button.
Departing.
You are
When do
currently
you
on
want
a
to
button.
depart?
To
Yeah.
display a list of
Okay,
options,
tables.
press Control
Tables are
option,
very
space.
complex because
Date,
you've
button.
got
List
headings
1
and you've got the
2022
individual
August
cells within them.
2022
So it's really
June,
critical that
button,
you,
group.
when using tables
You are
and
currently on a
content, that you
button,
really call
group.
out those
To click
headings.
this button,
An
press
assistive
Control
technology
option,
user
space.
will jump across headings to find what's
Mandatory
relevant
use
to
of
them,
face masks
and then
on
it will
all
drop
flights.
down into the relevant content. They can't use eyes to be able to scan the page and simply go in. And same with non-mouse users. If they're just using a keyboard to go down to the date picker, that's going to be quite a tough experience as well. So let's try and see if you can pick the date. What date do you want to?
This weekend.
Mandatory
This
use of
weekend,
face
okay.
masks on all flights.
So I'm trying to like click into June by using enter, because I would just assume that it would let me just choose June straight away, but it appears not.
2022 July,
So you tab it
button.
across.
For 2022 August, button.
August.
2022
I don't want to,
August,
yeah,
next
too far.
button. 3 button group.
Okay, so what's happened there is you've tabbed all the way to the left. There's been a next button. It didn't call out exactly what it was going to do, and then it's actually jumped down into the date pickers.
Okay.
So potentially from a UX perspective, you would be expecting to choose the month, then go into the dates that represent that month, so you can move in. But actually, it's just pushed you through a linear format after the next button to jump down in.
Oh yeah, I've selected a date.
You've got the date.
I can't remember which day it is, but I can't see the date either. Where am I going?
So that's quite interesting. So there's a lot of information on the page. And you can see from a design perspective, text is very small because you've got to put so many cells within that table. Matt's really leaning into the experience now and trying to get closer to it, or maybe you're even stepping back. So you've selected now the date, and
I'm going through all the dates now.
You've
to
selected
get to the continue button.
and you've selected the 4th.
Super frustrating.
Now, when you've hit return, I am assuming you would have expected to go to the next action, but you've now had to tab through every single date now to get down to the continue button.
Exactly.
So how many clicks was that? A lot.
A lot.
Yeah. So obviously, once you've made the selection, you want to be able to then prompt the user to say, this is the date you have selected. Are you okay to move on? So you're now on the continue button.
Okay, mandatory use of face masks.
Masks, yep.
Masks. I don't know where I actually am right now because it's not telling me. All right, search flights.
Search flights, excellent. That's good. So as you can see there, a lot of little small incremental changes that you can make from an accessibility point of view. What the point of this really is to get yourself in the shoes of somebody living with a disability. You don't need fancy glasses like this one over here.
So fancy.
But turning off your screen, trying this is really important. There's also great plugins that you can use on all sorts of different browsers. So it's really worthwhile doing that and having both the designers and the developers in the room while you're doing that.
All right, so just to round this off, I'm on a new page, I think, right? Like, I obviously see very little, but I can tell that the interface has changed. I'm still like, I don't really have any confirmation of like the booking that I want, the dates. And it's not really telling me that I confirmed Sydney to Melbourne. So yeah, I'm still unsure. And then, there we go. Okay, there's more. Wednesday, Thursday. This is super intense. Okay, and that's where we end.
So we're not going to go through the whole experience because we'll start getting some booze in a second. But I think what's really important here is when you do a journey like this, timing that experience to work out what the happy state is great. That's fantastic. But you also need to put yourself through some of your other users. 20% of your other users are going to have an experience like this. And the majority of the opportunity here, and that commercial lens that we were just talking about earlier, a lot of users do not have the ability to make bookings, to purchase phones, to get a bank account. And so if you get this right, there is a huge market that you'll be able to bring on board. And I think that's what's really interesting about this.
Yeah. Check out Telstra. All right, cool. Q&A time and Aperol time. Ben, would you like to take a seat? Okay, so we can switch back now to the other thing, maybe. Oh, cheers, sir. Thank you. Is this working? Yeah? Just to confirm. Delicious.
You earned that.
All right. Just get myself comfortable. All right, I've got the questions on my phone. And whilst I get going, Ben, quick question to you. What does digital accessibility mean to you?
I think when we use that terminology, it's about creating an inclusive future, equal access to information. There shouldn't be any users that are blocked from being able to access this type of information. And we've got to think about the types of technology choices that people use. Their disability should not be a barrier. We need to be able to provide independence to every person and not have them rely on their brother, their mother, a friend to be able to make a booking, something like this, or something more serious like looking at your bank account, being able to pay a bill. All of these things that are sometimes, and you can use some strong language here, all the way from frustrations through to discrimination. And I think that's a really critical and important thing that we need to think about. And everyone here in this room has the opportunity to make that difference. And it shouldn't be up to people living with disability to find that workaround.
Yeah, I think with everything that everyone's been through for the last couple of years, COVID, like really tap into your empathy right now and just imagine like during. Oh, so it wasn't working. You were lying. All right. How far is it? Okay. So just tap into empathy right now. This is everything that we practice from a UX perspective. Empathy. You know, I can just keep saying it over and over again, but empathy. COVID, physical stores shut, you're forced online, you're having a terrible experience. 70% of is not accessible to them. You know, 80% of sites, blah, blah, blah. They're having a terrible time. So that's the most important message, I think, empathy. Okay, so Ben, what are some accessibility-led? This keeps moving around. What are some accessibility-led changes coming to the digital space in the next 5 years?
Who have somewhat of a robust digital experience already, it's about making sure you double down on all journeys to make sure that they work. There's a lot of endless loops and a lot of blocks when you think about organizations that have very large digital ecosystems and footprints. And so it's very easy to forget about some of those experiences that don't quite finish right. With this acceleration over the past few years, businesses have had to move very quickly to make sure all of those experiences work and that you don't have those experiences where you can't actually finish it. Logging in, identity, things of that nature where you kind of sometimes get on that endless loop trying to work out a PIN code versus your password and a bunch of other things. These are the types of things that are the game changers, and those basic foundations, which a lot of what the other speakers have been talking about, they are absolutely critical. And when we think about accessibility, that's again a base foundation that needs to be there.
Nice. How do you approach pitching accessibility in e-commerce as a cost of doing business and not an afterthought?
This one's interesting. Forrester's research looked at the full product life cycle and looked at what is the cost and effort to introduce accessibility at various stages throughout that life cycle. We have anything from a 1 to 30 times multiplier. And what that really means is if you start accessibility at the very start, when you're talking to your architects about the technology you're going to use, the structure, the language, the platforms, when the designers are doing the research up front and talking to your users, if you bring it in at that start, it is a 1 times multiplier. It doesn't cost anything extra because you're doing it as business as usual. Unfortunately, as you start to move further down that product life cycle, you start to see those numbers go up. We start to see a 3 times multiplier if you skip it during the design phase, a 10 times multiplier at the development phase, and then if you've already launched out into market and then you go back having to fix accessibility, it can be up to a 30 times multiplier. And we've seen that sometimes in history where court cases have been brought forward and organizations have turned around and said, it's going to cost me millions of dollars and about a year to go back and fix these things. And the commissioners have turned around and said, doesn't matter if it takes you 10 years. These are the things that we need to get done because it is ethically right to do this for people and we should not let them be left out.
Yeah, agreed. I was at CX Circle in London and we hosted a panel there too. And just following on from what Ben's saying, there's a lady called Sveta from ASOS, and it was like this question about like how do you get the message across to like senior stakeholders? How do you even like start to like talk about accessibility to them and not get shut down? And she said something really like profound. She was like, user testing. Don't just test with everybody else. Test with actual like diverse, inclusive personas. Test, and then show those senior stakeholders the results. Show the struggle that these users are going through. And with that, we fix for them and it fixes for everyone. Like, this is the most important message, right, Ben? I think we fix one solution, we fix one problem for some who's got an impairment, and with that, we have a greater experience because of that, okay?
I like that. And just 3 quick examples of that. The electric toothbrush, originally designed for people with mobility impairments, but look at the market now, multi-billion-dollar business across the world. Look at when you're crossing the road, you see the curves within the sidewalk, originally designed for wheelchairs, but obviously is a very critical thing for prams and anything else that you need to nicely go from the footpath across the road. And then my favorite, a digital one, was recently with Microsoft Teams. I don't know if anyone's seen the little hand icon that sits up there. That little icon represents a problem that was faced by one of the employees there with cognitive and neurological impairment. The problem that they faced into on a daily basis in meetings was not having that confidence or not knowing when to get into a conversation, particularly in a group meeting. And so it seemed quite obvious when they came up with the idea, put your hand up, as if I need to speak. And that gave them the welcome invite, if you will, to say, yes, it's your turn to speak. So again, these are the things that start off as a specific need to solve a disability, but then becomes popular across everyone.
Yeah, like closed captions too. Think of that. You know, what was once for someone with a hearing impairment now is something that we all probably use day to day, whether that's on social media or Netflix, watching videos on YouTube. I can't remember the exact like statistic, but there's X amount of increase. Sorry, terrible source here, but X amount of increase.
Sounds legit.
It's legit. I swear. I'll find it. I'll find it somewhere. Not just making it up. X amount of increase in viewership because of captions. All right, Instagram posts and so on.
You know, there's data people here.
I know. Yeah, terrible, man. I'm just now a designer who designs based on personal preference. Sorry, Vanya. Crap. All right. So a couple more minutes. One more question. Sorry, I keep having to filter. We love filters. Can an accessible approach, I really like this question, can an accessible approach to UX be truly balanced, or are there inherent compromises to overall UX that must be made? I'm just going to go first on this one, Ben, if you don't mind. All right. So this is a really great question. Okay. Does, making everything accessible mean that we're going to have really kind of boring and uninteractive experiences? Yes. No, I'm joking. Okay, but I actually there's another accessibility member of our team, and we're like a really good balanced team now, because whenever we're like reviewing designs, she's always kind of like, no, we can't have like animations, we can't have this and that, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, oh no, but maybe we can have some balance, okay? Maybe we can have a little toggle, a little toggle feature that plays and pauses animations for users that, have a cognitive impairment, ADHD, and overstimulation and so on. So it is all about balance, I think. There's ways around this as well. It doesn't mean that we have to just have like flat, boring, static pages. I think we can definitely, balance creativity and accessibility as well.
And I think I totally agree. And one of the things that you brought up on the earlier slides was about training. When we think about accessibility standards, there's a level A, AA, and AAA standard, probably looking at around 50 or so individual success criteria that you need to measure against every single one of your pages to make sure that it's accessible. What we see is when people are told you need to make your page accessible, they sometimes freak out a little bit and they go back to the very, very basics, right? The most amount of color contrast ratio, very simple structure, and it's going back to those foundations. I challenge everybody here that they can make a beautiful and interactive, accessible site, no matter what your brand is. And it's just about learning those standards and noting that things like animation, yeah, if it's continuously spinning on the page and it's going to distract somebody who's got a cognitive or neurological impairment, that's fine. Sorry, that's not fine, but it's...
Cut!
It's fine if you know how to work with that, right? Make the animation go for a couple of seconds and then stop and pause it. Definitely don't keep it spinning. But these are the types of examples. The more you learn about these things as a designer, as a developer, as a producer, as a content writer, they are all very, very critical. And it's the same with language as well. We have to start writing as if a 12-year-old can read this. And that's kind of a sort of baseline measure that we are probably all guilty of when we talk about our products and features, especially when it comes to international data and stuff like that. We need to keep it simple.
Awesome. All right, just one final question. Alice is like, one final question. I just really want to get this question out there because I think it's super important. Ben, how would you go about creating a safe space within a company where you can allow perhaps people who work there who have got some sort of impairment, and also creating a kind of accessibility champions network? Like, how would you go about that?
The quick version is you've probably already got a lot of people living with disability already in your organization. So creating a safe space, we call it an employee representation group. Ours is called Telstrability. And we've got probably around 120, 130 people that are part of that feel that this is a safe space to come and catch up on a monthly basis, talk about the pains of technology, the tips that they have for sort of getting little workarounds. And so that's been fantastic. But equally, I would suggest that not only do you do that, but think about actively when you do recruitment, how might you recruit somebody that is living with a disability? It's very hard for us to be able to simulate what it is like living with a disability, unless you've got really cool glasses like Matt. And so within Telstra, within our team, I'd say probably around 40% of our team live with a disability. So we're learning from them on a daily basis, and that you can't teach somebody that. You've got to experience it. And that's why I've been so lucky and feel so empowered with our team culturally, technically, that we can drive such significant change because they live it on a daily basis. And that way everybody else learns from that as well. So I encourage everyone to, if you have the opportunity, to really think about that next time you recruit someone.
Beautifully said. All right, thank you, everyone, so much. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any feedback or questions, yeah, please come and find us. I'm more than happy to discuss it. Thanks.
Thank you.
That was super interesting, gents. Thanks so much. And I think as well, a note to marketing. Ben and Matt have both spoken in quite a few recorded sessions that we have about practical ways to lay the foundations to start making your sites more accessible. So let's add those to the follow-up email links, but a ton of amazing content. But thanks so much, gents, again. And I can't believe that you put the London crew through 20 minutes of that voiceover. By about a minute in, I was like, oh God, this is much.
It was way louder in London.
Oh, wow. Good job, tech team. Awesome. All right. So it's now nearly time for aperitivo o'clock. We've got spritz, prosecco, free bar, pizzas. The gelato cart has just arrived. So we would definitely encourage you all to stay, mingle, ask questions of the team. Just want to give a final thank you. Thank you so much for our partners. And again, AB Tasty, Botify, Drumline. Please do chat to them. Thank you, Botify, for sponsoring the Apero bar. I definitely think we're going to get our money's worth and sink quite a few of those. Thank you so much to our speakers. I'm sure you can agree, an absolutely fantastic array of presentations and insights today. And then final thank you for everyone, both online and in person. Thanks so much for your time, and hopefully you can stick around to enjoy the tunes of DJ Lockdown and stick around till 3 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.